Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
I think all statements, I defer all statements to next week so that we focus on what we came to discuss this afternoon. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, alteration of the Senate calendar for the 5th session.
Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move this motion, alteration of the Senate calendar for the 5th session, that reads that notwithstanding the resolution of the Senate made on the 16th February 2021, approval of the Senate calendar pursuant to Standing Order 29.4 and 31.3, the Senate resolves to alter its calendar regular session for the 5th session 2021 in report of parts 2 and 3 to hold 2 sittings every week on Tuesdays only, morning and afternoon, beginning from 10 a.m. And ending at 12:30 p.m. for the morning sitting, and beginning at 2:30 p.m. and ending at 6:30 p.m. for the afternoon sitting. Beginning on Wednesday, 24th March 2021 until Tuesday, 15 June 2021, and that the Senate calendar regular session for the 5th session 2021 be altered accordingly. Mr. Speaker, the reason why the leadership decided to change the calendar is because of the current situation in the country, and I believe this is a procedural motion. And we feel that it looks like even the way we are operating in the House is like things are normal. And I think that is not a position. Mr. Speaker, we felt as leadership that we need actually to take seriously this third wave, because if we don't do that, then it's going to cause a lot of problem, and we have a lot of challenges. And the rate is actually increasing today. And as we've been informed, Mr. Speaker, all the medical institutions are actually full. Mr. Speaker, we have made arrangements even in this House where people can sit maybe 1.5 meters apart, but unfortunately, if you look around today, people are sitting as if everything is normal. And I believe it is important that we need to take care of ourselves, in as much as we know that we have responsibilities as leaders to deal with the matters that are before this House. And the sittings that we have introduced in the morning will take care of the sittings that we'll miss in the afternoon of Thursday. Mr. Speaker, I am sure members, they have actually been called also, as has been organized by the leadership, that immunization is taking place for members of parliament, and I hope members are doing that so that we take precautionary measures. Apart from that, we have a responsibility as leaders to make sure that we have observed the rules that have put in place by health institutions. And I hope this will be able to assist all of us. I'm sure we have been told that there are so many of us who are actually in those institutions of hospitals as a result of the current happenings in the country, because the rate is actually increasing. And Mr. Speaker, that is a decision that was made by the leadership to alter the calendar so that we can protect ourselves and also protect the people we lead. Because as leaders, if we observe those rules, and then the people we represent can be able also to observe those rules. With that, I believe this is a procedural motion, and I'll request Senator Kwamboka to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion on the alteration of the Senate calendar for the 5th session. Mr. Speaker, indeed, this time we live in a very difficult situation concerning this disease. It has cost us a lot. We've lost many lives. We've seen many MPs, like all the citizens of this country. Most of them are admitted right now, and we cannot take risk on coming here. Our lives are very important, and everyone's life is very important. Mr. Speaker, we'll be having 2 sittings on Tuesday, and I think with Tuesday, everything can be met. We'll be having the statements in the morning, and we proceed with the other things. So I urge this House to adapt this motion, because it's going to help us. Right now, things are not normal. We need to adjust this calendar so that we can save our lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Honorable Senators, I now propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the resolution of the Senate made on 16 February 2021, approval of the Senate calendar pursuant to Standing Orders 29.4 and 31.3, the Senate resolves to alter its calendar regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 in respect of Part 2 and 3 to hold 2 sittings every week on Tuesdays only, morning and afternoon, beginning from 10 a.m. and ending at 12:30 p.m. for the morning sitting, and beginning at 2:30 p.m. and ending at 6:30 p.m. for the afternoon sitting, beginning on Wednesday, 24th March 2021 until Tuesday, 15th June 2021, and that the Senate calendar regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 be altered accordingly. Senator Kipchumba Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this very important motion on alteration of calendar. I know the situation we are in at the moment is a bit precarious, and it is risky for all of us dealing with this issue of COVID. I know a number of colleagues here have gone through what it is to go through the ailment of COVID-19. Plus, there are even others, Mr. Speaker, out there, maybe staff, our families, our friends. And it's even worse, Mr. Speaker, that we are losing many people at this point in time. In fact, if you ask me, I would still propose to the executive, through the office of the president, to still make the measures a bit more stringent, particularly related to social areas and social facilities, Mr. Speaker, because we are needlessly losing so many people. And Mr. Speaker, I hope in this very period, the Health Committee, Mr. Speaker, will embark on its responsibility. I know there was another committee on COVID, which we wound up. But, Mr. Speaker, we want to see the Health Committee more active. I know the Deputy Majority Leader is here and the whip to, Mr. Speaker, assist the House in pushing for serious action on the part of the Health Committee in making proposals that can assist the executive to deal with this issue, Mr. Speaker. It may even be necessary to lock down some areas in the country for the time being. And in fact, if there is something we need to assist, apart from citizens who are like us, who are serving in different capacities, getting the vaccine, Mr. Speaker, we need to know a proper rollout. You know, we must get to know how the rollout will be done in a more transparent manner, and which is beneficial to especially citizens, senior citizens, and those who have underlying conditions, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can be able to protect our people. I wish, Mr. Speaker, we had, as Bunge, we had many of us done the vaccine publicly, led by yourself and your brother in the National Assembly, just as a way of dispelling these rumors about the consequence of taking a vaccine. It's become so deep, Mr. Speaker, and particularly in the rural areas. I spoke to one of my supporters, who is an elderly lady. Mr. Speaker, she was telling me that I've heard from radio that taking this vaccine is detrimental to my health. I don't know how we will be able to, on what we can do to ensure that we instill confidence. But even as we instill confidence, we must first assure the people of Kenya that the vaccine is existing and it's a priority program for the people of Kenya. I support the alteration of the program. Even as we come here on Tuesdays, Mr. Speaker, I hope that, of course, the standing orders are there. If there is an urgent business that we need to deal with, we have the opportunity to come back here, Mr. Speaker, and have a special sitting for purpose of dispensing that business. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you. I can see the interest is growing, so let's try to keep it short. Senator Omogeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the motion that we alter our calendar to be having sittings once a week on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to send a message of fear to Kenyans, but we must be realistic. That's why we are leaders. The situation, Mr. Speaker, is so bad, almost desperation. Mr. Speaker, if you have friends who are doctors, they will tell you and they will warn you that no matter your status in society, you are likely to miss admission into an ICU facility, not only in Nairobi, but across the country, in many counties. Mr. Speaker, if you listen to scientists, Mr. Speaker, they will tell you that this current virus spreads pretty fast. It's very easy to contract it, and it's very easy for it to take you down. That is the reality, Mr. Speaker. So we have to lead from the front. Mr. Speaker, there are many examples we can learn from. Mr. Speaker, if you look to the other arm of government, the judiciary. Last week I saw a communication that the law courts in Thika had suspended business because some members of staff had contracted COVID-19. Unless, Mr. Speaker, we have business that is so urgent that we cannot adjourn it to another day, let's deal with what is extremely urgent. Mr. Speaker, because Kenyans are very private people, you will be surprised that even within Parliament, you will be surprised that you may have interacted with members of staff, you may have interacted with colleagues who contract the virus but silent to go to hospital to seek for treatment. So I think the strategy for now, Mr. Speaker, is to keep our public engagements as low as possible. And by extension, Mr. Speaker, I think we need more stringent measures from the government. Because I've seen even our friends in politics, once we move to the countryside, we are still doing roadside meetings. We are addressing people in shopping centers, and we are doing so without our mask. I want to appeal to the executive, the president, to borrow what is happening in Europe. You can see, Mr. Speaker, what is happening in UK. Visitation, even within families, is limited to 2 families. And even then, you must do it externally, not inside somebody's house. Germany is going back to lockdown. So we really want to appeal to the government, because the responsibility to save lives at the end of the day vests with our government. I want to appeal to His Excellency the President, Minister for our CS for Health, CS Interior, to come up with more stringent measures so that we can contain this virus, because our health facilities are full. Really, we have nowhere to take our patients. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I'll now allow 3 minutes because the screen is full. Senator Ephraim Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like to support this move. And Mr. Speaker, as a country, we are faced with a very difficult, dangerous situation. Therefore, any measure that goes towards creating any form of safety should be welcome to us, especially as leaders. Mr. Speaker, when I welcome this, I must say it's a bit mind-boggling to me. There have met quite a few of our citizens who feel that where the economy is, they cannot afford to buy a mask. Forget talking over soap and all this. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I have been wondering whether there is a way that we could have, especially masks, made cheaply. The other day, the National Youth Service, through financing by Kenya Pipeline, in a very humble budget of less than 100 million, they made so many masks in this country. They made so many sanitizers and distributed in the counties, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I think these are some of the things we should look at so that our citizens have no excuse for not wearing a mask, for example, and even synthesizer where possible, because we have to use all means to fight this epidemic. Mr. Speaker, let me also say that in this one, government should consider seriously other measures that should be put in place, because where we are seeing figures rising, and they are not rising of population. It is figures of people who are actually disappearing. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would like to call upon the government to see what other measures they may have to do in spite of the hard economic situation we are in. Thank you.
Senator Locorio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise in support of this motion to alter the calendar of the Senate for the 5th session. Mr. Speaker, in supporting, I would like to request that we consider us who are above 58 years, and we are the majority in this House, so that we do a hybrid system of our session, so that we can have members who've been left out for a long time participating in our sessions by having the digital version of the Zoom and the physical meeting, so that they have not left out of our proceedings. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I would also like to request the Ministry of Health that in their public awareness campaigns, they include vaccination as a measure of preventing COVID-19, in addition to washing hands or sanitizing, wearing masks, and keeping social distance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kimani Wamatangi.
Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support the motion, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, to note that one, as we alter the calendar, it is important that we clarify, indeed, Mr. Speaker, that the hybrid system of participation in the Senate is not stopped. It still continues. Mr. Speaker, what is of interest at this time is to observe the conduct of Kenyans, and I want to congratulate, Mr. Speaker, the motion. The move of the motion, and, Mr. Speaker, the senators who thought about this, because it is very, very important that we lead by example. And, Mr. Speaker, if you look at what is happening outside, Mr. Speaker, it is worrying that people are behaving with unbelievable neglect all over, Mr. Speaker. And for us to lead and show that the right thing must be done, it's commendable, Mr. Speaker. We also must say, Mr. Speaker, to government, it is quite worrying at this time that all the things that we had instituted as measures to help to curb COVID when it came seems to have stopped, Mr. Speaker. There was a time when the pandemic struck that institutions like Kenya Pipeline and others did a lot of good work by distributing free sanitizers, Mr. Speaker. Then, before the scandal at KEMSA, Mr. Speaker, there was initiative that was visible. And Mr. Speaker, what I would want to do is to urge government to ensure that then this is the time to do more than we did the first time, and ensure that when it is more deadly, then we are combating it with even more versatile measures, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, to say that we have to say to our institutions of research that, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be entirely and fully dependent when we have this kind of pandemic on foreign help, Mr. Speaker, and especially for vaccines and other medications, Mr. Speaker. It is pathetic. If you look at the masks everybody is wearing in this house, Mr. Speaker, they're imported from China, all of them, these blue small things. There has been no initiative anywhere, Mr. Speaker, other than the cloth masks that are made by our ladies and small shops. But there has been no serious initiative to ensure that there can be mass production of masks as simple as this, Mr. Speaker. They are still being imported today. And what we would need to address as government is to ensure that there are serious measures that have been put in place. Countries that have succeeded in containing COVID, Mr. Speaker, have had sustained discipline all the way through. And the story of countries like Hong Kong, like Korea, and Mr. Speaker, even China itself, where this pandemic emanated from, they have contained it, Mr. Speaker, by being sustainably disciplined. And Mr. Speaker, I want to urge that we ensure that we carry this on and ensure that government takes its right place by being a role model itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Masinza Shionga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the motion on alteration of the Senate calendar for the 5th session. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that I totally agree with my colleagues, and we need just to take seriously this particular condition. This disease has killed our colleagues. This condition of the pandemic has gone with our family members. It has gone with our close relatives, and we can say we need just to change our lifestyle, the way we do things, the way we associate with the lives. It has totally affected us, and we just need to adhere with what is being said. Globally, we have lost around 2.7 million people, and that is not a small population. And even us here, we are human beings. As we continue even looking for the measures that have been put in place to protect us, I urge the members of this Senate, I urge the members of this Parliament to observe the rules that have been put into place so that we minimize on the interaction, because we do not know who next will be affected and who next will go with this, or who next will disappear, or the disease will go or choose to kill. So with the kind of us keeping our hygiene, keeping distance to ourselves, and keeping health guidelines that can suppress this particular condition, it is important for us to lead by example as leaders and not to do contrary. We have talked much about COVID in this. This is the third wave. We do not know how many waves do we have so that we can suppress the whole condition. The condition is very new in Kenya. It is globally new. So I urge that even in our families, we come here and meet. But when we go back in our families, when we go back to our communities, can we continue embracing hygienic protection measures that we have learned, that we are being taught by our health workers, so that we can bring to the end, if possible, by God's grace, this particular pandemic that has really messed with our lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the alteration of the Senate calendar
Senator Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I join the rest of my colleagues who are in support of this motion to alter the calendar of the Senate. I agree with them, Mr. Speaker, because of the need to preserve life and make do in very extraordinary times that we are facing as a country and indeed the whole world. Mr. Speaker, however, I do wish to propose that even as we consider this decision, that the leadership should have been more detailed in their request to this House, apart from just informing us about the alteration of the calendar. One, Mr. Speaker, they should have informed us about perhaps, because this appears to be a continuous trend, and it's something we have been in this situation for more than a year now, Mr. Speaker, and it's becoming increasingly clear that we are not so sure when the world will be completely out of the woods with regards to this pandemic. Therefore, it would have been better, Mr. Speaker, if we had been informed how committee systems are going to be used to ensure that the business of Senate continues by use of the online platforms that were available earlier on last year when we began this battle, Mr. Speaker, so that we do not forestall parliamentary business that is critical for the progress of our nation, Mr. Speaker, because we must strike a balance. Just like doctors and nurses have got to balance the risk between their well-being and attending to patients, even us to a greater extent as leaders, we are called upon to serve our country in very difficult times such as this, and it's upon us to find ways upon which we can adopt and ensure that parliamentary business continues even as we battle. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead or even urge, if I may be kind, Mr. Speaker, that the leadership has a session with our departmental committee on health. There are so many things that Kenyans are looking up to us as leaders, and they are asking questions about us that aren't we concerned as a House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, that national government continues to do heavy investment in different sectors like the expressway that we are hearing here in Nairobi, yet we have read in the media, Mr. Speaker, that as a country we cannot afford to ship in extra doses of this vaccine. The truth of the matter is that in a country of 47 million people, Mr. Speaker, for us to be proud that we have only shipped in 1.5 million vaccine, and it's for want of resources, which we can otherwise secure if we are realigned and ensure that we set up investment in the right areas, then, Mr. Speaker, as a House of Parliament, we must stamp our foot and ask the right questions to the relevant people. Therefore, I want to urge that the Committee on Health takes up this matter as a matter of priority, so that next week when we reconvene, Mr. Speaker, we are informed. What is the plan with regards to vaccination of the entire population? Kenya can afford to buy the 47 million doses for all Kenyans if we stop some of these programs that are not urgent. They might be necessary, but not urgent as a vaccine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just to inform Senator Murkomen that I've been vaccinated, so I'm leading by the front. Senator Mwenyehaji, what's your point of order?
The man you are informing that you have been vaccinated also got a vaccine, and I can see the effects of AstraZeneca on him. He's fast asleep, Mr. Speaker. So,
Senator Murkomen, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I don't know. Senator Cheriot himself was vaccinated later, Mr. Speaker. His comments must be related to his own effects, Mr. Speaker. You can see I was listening and following the proceedings. And I want to assure the people of Elgeyo Marakwet that I am health and seriously representing them in the Senate.
Senator Mwenyehaji.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuunga mkono mswada huu wa kubadilisha ratiba ya vikao vya Senate. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kweli kwamba ugonjwa wa corona umerudi kwa raundi ya 3, na hivi sasa ni hatari zaidi kuliko raundi zile 2 nyingine zilizotangulia. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati ugonjwa huu ulipoanza, bunge la Senate lilichagua kamati ya COVID, na kamati ile iliweza kufanya kazi nzuri sana, na ilikuwa inatoa mwelekeo kila wiki ya zile kazi ambazo zimeweza kufanyika na vikao ambavyo vimefanywa pamoja na taasisi nyingine za serikali. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, kutoka kamati ile muhula wake uishe, hakuja kuwa na mwelekeo wowote katika bunge hili kuhusiana na masuala ya COVID. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni aibu leo kwamba mpaka sasa kutoka hii raundi ya 3 ianze hatujakuwa na mwongozo wote uliotolewa katika bunge hili kuhusiana na vipi wananchi watakavyoweza kufanya ili kuepukana na janga hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia utaona kwamba katika sehemu nyingi serikali zetu za kaunti pia zimekwenda kulala. Hakuna mwongozo wowote wa vipi tutajiepusha na maradhi haya kwa raundi nyingine. Hakuna kampeni zinazofanya za watu kupokea chanjo, na kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni jambo ambalo linaathiri wananchi, na kwa hakika wananchi wengi wanapoteza maisha bila ya kuwa na tahadhari yoyote. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tutakapobadilisha ratiba hii ya vikao, na hakika kwamba tutachukua fursa hiyo kuweza kufanya kazi Jumatano na Alhamisi ili kuona kwamba zile kamati ambazo zinahusika zinaweza kufanya kazi kama ilivyokuwa imepangwa wakati ule wa nyuma. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Ndwiga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to join my colleagues in supporting this motion of changing the calendar of our sittings. Mr. Speaker, it's very important because this is changing the structure of our sittings is one major example in the country to tell Kenyans how seriously the Senate is taking this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding the fact that we have the privilege of deciding when and when to sit, and notwithstanding the amount of business which is before this House, that we have chosen in the interest of good health and to give an example and a statement to this nation that we can sit one day, we can have 2 sittings in a week, and that's a major statement. Mr. Speaker, in between, I do hope that the committees, particularly the Committee of Health, will also get to work. We would want to know, Mr. Speaker, when we hear that in our counties, all our counties, that there's no bed capacity in all our counties. Mr. Speaker, it is scaring. And also would want to know what happened to the COVID funds that went to our counties. Perhaps that's a statement that our committee, the Committee of Health, should be able to tell us. I don't know whether it's the Committee of Health or it's the committee which we had elected here to do the work of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, it is scaring. All of us know somebody who has been infected or who has been affected. Mr. Speaker, in my own county, Embu, we have lost quite a number of people. And one major person this morning, a major journalist with the Star newspapers, Mr. Speaker, he just succumbed to COVID, Mr. Githinji, this morning because we did not have adequate attention both in Embu, because Embu there were no beds at all to accommodate him when he needed that oxygen most. Mr. Speaker, I support and I hope Kenyans will begin to take this third spike seriously, because it is that serious. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wako. Senator Sitsila Wako.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this motion of alteration of the Senate calendar. Mr. Speaker, inasmuch as the reason for the alteration of the Senate calendar is because of the wave of COVID, I thought I should share with my fellow senators what I've just gone through in the last 5 weeks. The Speaker, sir, I was not feeling well, and I just went on a routine visit for a checkup, only to be told that you must be admitted. And I said, for what? And it was for COVID at Nairobi. And I really agreed I must go home, at least pick a book or two or whatever, which he agreed, but I was taken home, not in my own Mercedes 600, which I'm used to, but in an ambulance, Mr. Speaker. I arrived at my house in Nairobi in Karen in an ambulance. And my workers were really shocked that an ambulance was coming. And together with that, there was a team. And whenever I went, there was somebody carrying a can of oxygen because I was already on oxygen. I was admitted. I was on oxygen for 2.5 weeks. All the time, given treatments. It affected a bit of the underlying causes, which I have as an old man, of diabetes and high blood pressure. But after 3 weeks, I'm glad to tell you, I was discharged, but put on a 14-day quarantine at my residence, and that ended on Friday last week. This COVID is not something that I would wish on anybody. And I'm supporting this because of the seriousness of this motion. COVID is something that really we have to take seriously. We Kenyans are taking it very casually. I think I'd been home the previous 2 weekends in Busia, and I don't know whether I got it there or got it here, but I'm suspecting I must have gotten it when I went home on 2 previous weekends and attended many funerals. One day I attended 4 funerals and whatnot and so on. And nobody was wearing this. When I went to the home of a member of Parliament, National Assembly, nobody was wearing this, apart from myself and maybe you. Huh? Maybe you. So we looked like strangers. So I thought, as a gentleman, I must remove my mask so that I'm just like everybody else. And maybe that was, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, it can get you anywhere. And it is life-threatening. At least the COVID I had was life-threatening. The doctors said that was a touch-and-go matter. So for the last almost 5 weeks now, I've been out of circulation. And that's why you have not heard about me for quite some time. And therefore, the action we are taking today, yeah, that was the last. Maybe I got it there, I don't know. Yeah, we were together with in Matungu and so on, and I think that's the last time that I went home. The following weekend, I went home again for other funerals, but I'm just mentioning this because it's a nasty experience, and I would want my colleagues really to take it seriously. We are all politicians and so on. Just take extra caution. Really take extra caution when you are now meeting with the people and so on.
Okay, you are
with those few remarks, I support.
Senator Milgo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to support this motion of adjournment. And I want to say that it is important for us to actually adjourn because of the fact that this third wave is very severe, very serious. In fact, every day we are being given statistics. Some of them are people that are passed on, and we normally take it as a statistic, but then those are fathers, they are mothers, they are children, they are leaders, they are even health workers that this country has lost. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the first time when the first wave was here, we were quite serious in terms of observing the protocols and even in terms of lockdowns. And that time, I think much of the cases were within the big towns. However, right now it is in the villages, and as most of my colleagues have reported, actually in the villages, people do not imagine that coronavirus is there. Mr. Speaker, sir, as somebody has already said, I think even issues of vaccination should actually be taken as a matter of seriousness so that we can save our people. And of course, we've heard of many cases where people are afraid to take this particular vaccination. And I think right now, because we've been told that the leadership can be able to take it, I think this should have been taken in live TV so that we can be able to encourage our people to take up this particular vaccination. Actually, we have actually opened most of the areas because of issues of economic meltdown. However, as our president earlier on said, last year we did a lot in actually saving lives and in actually protecting ourselves, and we ignored much of the issues that are going on elsewhere. And we were able to actually reduce, and we brought this up to 2%. And when we decided to open up because of economic issues, what is happening right now is beyond comprehension. I would have wished that even this particular alteration of calendar would include a hybrid system that we had chosen the last time, so that once in a while, those that are not be able to get here physically can be able to join in, so that most of us, or rather the 58 and above, can be able to join even while away, so that it becomes better, just like we succeeded in actually handling a lot of committee sessions through Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Malala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to support this motion because it is a motion that is life-saving. Mr. Speaker, as we alter the calendar of the Senate, I would like to encourage our colleagues, as we find more time to go to our counties, we need now to embark on serious oversight on our county governments. Mr. Speaker, we have county governments which are not well prepared to handle the COVID situation back at home. We have seen hospitals lacking even the basic amenities a hospital needs, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've seen hospitals which have not even paid nurses and doctors, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as much as we are protecting ourselves as leaders, it is very important and incumbent upon ourselves, Mr. Speaker, for us to retreat to our counties, our respective counties, and ensure that we carry out effective oversight on the governors so that, Mr. Speaker, we protect our lives and protect the lives of our people, the people we elected us. Mr. Speaker, it is in the same breath that I would like to encourage ourselves that when we go back to our counties, we are in the process of coming up with the final budgets of this political dispensation of 2017-2022, and therefore it will be important for us to mentor and encourage our MCAs and our respective executives, Mr. Speaker, to consider budgeting for items which are going to save the lives of our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have so many people back home who cannot even afford a face mask, Mr. Speaker, who cannot even afford a sanitizer, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, it is very important, Mr. Speaker, as we encourage the MCAs to carry out their final budget, we encourage them to budget and prioritize for items which are going to save lives of our people. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we need to encourage our governors to have an economic stimulus program in our counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, businessmen are really struggling right now, and we need to give them an economic stimulus program which is going to cushion them from the harsh conditions that COVID-19 has caused in the business world. I would say here, Mr. Speaker, that in Kakamega County, for example, taxes have been doubled. The single business permits have been increased, Mr. Speaker, and yet business people are languishing in abject poverty and hardship, Mr. Speaker. I want to request the county governors, Mr. Speaker, to ensure they cushion the common mwananchi during this time of COVID-19. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I want to join the leadership of the House and join my colleague in supporting this motion. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Senator Farhia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, I think the last time I checked the statistics, the infection rate was at 22.1. Mr. Speaker, I think that is extremely high. And I think, Mr. Speaker, it's high time we did something, including before we open school. I think we minimize inter-county movements and slightly, I think reduce even the number of time people are outside at night, like bring it back to 8, for example, so that there's a little bit more, because even the infection rate has never been this high. When we had the lockdown, the infection rate was not this high. So I think we need to do something before school opens. And so that, and then the death rate is also going high. So I think it is good that we are reducing the time of our interaction, because we also come from different counties. So as we go back to our counties, we also bring problems, as we can also become spreaders as well. And then at least if we just reduce the time people are out at night for the next 3 weeks, I think things will come down. As I speak, Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, we lost the leader of our community in terms of for COVID 2 weeks ago when we were in the leadership meeting. And Mr. Speaker, the county government is also ill prepared for COVID. I mean, in terms of the number of ICU beds and stuff like that. And as you have had, most announcement is that most of the hospitals are full. I saw a comment from Governor of Machako saying that people are waiting for other people to die so that they can get in. I mean, if by the time it's reaching that level, surely this is serious enough. And Mr. Speaker, due to to prevailing circumstances, I support the change of calendar of the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion by the Deputy Majority Leader for reasons she gave, that we can reduce our physical interaction to 1 day a week on Tuesday morning and afternoon, so that we can be able to join the government and other Kenyans in trying to bring awareness to the people of our country on the dangers of COVID-19 or corona pandemic. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I want to urge the leadership on the majority side, the Senator Fatuma Dulo, who is here, that we had the Sakaja committee that did a fantastic job in bringing regular weekly updates to this House on the country's response, awareness, and so on corona. I'm that committee did a commendable job. For reasons that we know and understand, Senator Sakaja left the committee, and I think it came to the hands of Senator Sylvia Kasanga. We want to see that committee, if it's live, extinguished, to resurrected and extended, so that we get regular updates. It becomes the nexus between this House and the Ministry of Health. Statistics are being churned out, Mr. Speaker, some correct, some incorrect. We need a clear, first-hand information flow so that we know the people we represent, how they're faring. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, Amos Wako told me his story and his brush with near death from corona. And there are many more. He's lucky because others have died. I lost a brother at the beginning of this pandemic, and we have lost many, many people. Mr. Speaker, on Sunday I went to the Langata Cemetery to bury a NEC member of my party from Moyale, and the number of people being buried on the same day for the same reasons was shocking. So we need, Mr. Speaker, to hold the government, both at the national and county levels, to account. Money was sent to counties for corona, and no county is able to account properly for this money. We have been asking, Mr. Speaker, my county can't show anything for it, many other counties can't show anything for it. This is money that governors just converted into personal use, and they start using it for self-aggrandizement and doing things that are not helpful to the people. We lost a member of parliament from Matungu, Mr. Speaker, simply because there was no oxygen at Mumias Health Center. And yet the governor of Kakamega is busy on grandiose movements all over, trying to display non-existent successes that he says he has performed in the county. Mr. Speaker, these things have to be brought to an end, and we want to urge agencies of governance, the Office of the Control of Budget, the Office of the Auditor General, the Office of DCI, the ESCC, they must track and follow how public resources are being spent. When you hear people going around, Mr. Speaker, boasting that for the last 3-4 years they've built war chests for the next elections, instead of serving the people who elected them, it is disheartening. In fact, Mr. Speaker, as we go through this pandemic, one of the biggest threats to the security, safety, and health of the people of Kenya have become the governors. Because health is devolved, funds are available, although in a limited scale, but they are not put to good use. So let's adjourn, Mr. Speaker, change our calendar to what has been proposed, and perform much more robust oversight to ensure that Kenyans are safe. Thank you.
Senator Stewart Mazayo.
Shukran, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, pia mimi nataka kuunga mkono hoja hii ya kwamba tuweze kuangalia jinsia ya vikao ndani ya bunge la Senate. Bwana Spika, tutakuja kuona ya kwamba janga la corona ni janga ambalo limetushika sisi na lila ukweli. Janga la corona halijatokea katika ulimwengu kama hili zaidi ya karne moja. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ni jambo ambalo lazima tulizingatie zaidi, hususan ya kwamba utakuja kuona ya kwamba ugonjwa huu wa corona umeweza kupoteza madaktari wa hali ya juu, ya ngazi ya juu, ambao bado tunahitaji katika nchi hii. Na vile vile pia ukiangalia katika ulimwengu, wale ambao wameweza kufariki ni madaktari, ni manurses, ni wale wanafanya kazi pale hospitalini kusaidiana na manurses na madaktari. Hao ndio wameathirika vibaya na huu ugonjwa wa corona. Bwana Spika, vile vile ni kwamba hatuwezi kukosea tukisema ya kwamba ugonjwa huu hata ndani ya hili bunge letu la National Assembly na la Senate pamoja tumeweza kupata hasara kama hizi ambazo tumeweza kuchukua wenzetu wakawapeleka mbele za haki. Bwana Spika, hii ni kumaanisha kwamba ugonjwa huu uko na ni ukweli. Ukiangalia kwa wakati mwingi utaona kwamba tunajaa na tunaketi karibu sana, na hii ni kupinga zile amri za Wizara ya Serikali ya Afya kusema kwamba watu waweke social distance. Bwana Spika, cha pili ni kwamba tunaweza kuona kwamba kumekuwa na upungufu wa zile dawa ambazo zinaweza kuja. Hivi sasa zile chanjo zilizofika mpaka hivi sasa ni chanjo kama 1,000,000. Taifa hili liko na watu milioni 40. Sasa imefika 48. Tukiangalia hiyo, ukileta 1,000,000, wako wa Kenya milioni 47 ambao bado hawajapata chanjo. Kwa hiyo kadri tunavyoendelea mbele ndio tunaweza kupoteza watu wengi katika hili janga. Ingekuwa muhimu kuweza kusisitiza zaidi ya kwamba serikali pia wagundue mbinu pale watatafuta hizi dawa ili ziweze kuja na ziweze kusaidia Wakenya wetu. Bwana Spika, tunaelewa ya kwamba pia vile vile ni kwamba kumekuja hii COVID variant ambayo imejitambulisha sasa kama COVID, sio 19 tena, ni variant ambayo inachukua masaa 36 tukishashikwa. Tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu aliweza kumwokoa ndugu yetu Amos Wako, na hiyo ni kwa sababu yeye alikimbia na anafahamu, alienda hospitali mapema na akapata oxygen na aliweza kujiokoa maisha yake. Lakini ni wangapi ambao wanaweza kufanya namna hiyo? Sisi tunasema kwamba Bwana Spika, hii COVID variant ama COVID-19 zote hizi zizingatiwe vizuri sana. La mwisho, Bwana Spika, ni kwamba tunaona kwamba pia mochari zetu pia zinaanza kuwa na uzito wa kuweka maiti. Hivi sasa maiti kidogo zinakuwa na shida kwa sababu tunazika mapema. Na hii tukiendelea kuzika mapema, nafikiria ni hali nzuri kuweza kuona kwamba mtu akishafariki tunakuwa kama ndugu zetu wa Kiislamu, wao mtu ukifariki leo unazikwa kesho ama unazikwa leo kulingana na time ile ambayo umefariki. Lakini pia vile vile tuweza kuambia ndugu zetu wa Kikristo ya kwamba haina haja ya kuweka mwili ikiwa mtu amefariki, na hususan kwa njia hiyo, ama kuzingatia zile taratibu za sheria za afya. Bwana Spika, ninaona ya kwamba lazima serikali ichukue mkondo wa mbele kuona kwamba imeweza kuleta dawa za kutosha. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Professor Ongeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also weigh in on this matter. First, prevention is better than cure. We have tried all the measures of prevention: social distancing, sanitizing, washing your hands, and we were able to contain this scourge to a reasonable level. Unfortunately, this third wave has spiraled in a very dangerous process that, if we are not careful, will continue losing more and more Kenyans because of the invasion, particularly on the primary organs, particularly the lungs, that will have no capacity to be able to generate enough oxygenation for our blood flow. And obviously, when there is not enough oxygenation, you have what we call total body organ paralysis, and therefore you have dangerous moments which may require you to be put on the ventilator. So, Mr. Speaker, there are three-pronged approach in which we must approach this. First, I've heard my colleagues stating that the Health Committee has not been able to do anything. I'm a member of that committee, and Senator Olekina is a member. Indeed, we have been able to thoroughly appraise this matter in the last 3 days when these figures started getting haywire, and there is evidence that the statement from that committee is in your office, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know why it was not brought in today for briefing of the members. Not only that, a step has been taken to be able to invite the Ministry of Health to be able to give us a statement, because we want to tie in the statistics that seem to be at variance with what we see and what is being generated. And it's important that we move together in the same direction. And I hope that this will be placed before this House, because that has been done. And there are scheduled meetings with the stakeholders and the other major organs to be able to get into the bottom of this problem. Mr. Speaker, if I had time, I would have, in fact, given brief to this House that what is happening now is that a decision has got to be made whether we are dealing with the original COVID-19 virus or we're dealing with a variant. From my professional angle, when you have this particular virus, you are able to develop adequate antibodies to deal with a situation of this nature. Like I believe my colleague and Senator Amos Wako has now developed fully the enough antibodies to take him through a period of time, but that does not absolve him from taking the vaccine. I want to announce that I'm one of those medics who has taken the vaccine yesterday, because I've seen, looking at the statistics, there's a very poor uptake from my own professional colleagues. And I want to urge them through this platform of Senate that they should be able to take the shot, because it's important, because eventually, even if we have to do this vaccination once every year, it will be able to impart to you the necessary antibodies and enough antibodies to reduce the intensity of the disease that will take you to intensive care unit. There's no question whatsoever that right now our bed capacity is full, And therefore, we need to practice the basic, simple methods. And going through the literature, there are other areas. Mr. Speaker, if I can have 1 minute, just conclude this area, very important area.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, conclude.
Yeah, I will conclude. Mr. Speaker, if we can now go through and expedite through our research organizations the language which is coming through, that there is now an alternative treatment.
Order, senators.
There is an alternative treatment by Pfizer, which is oral treatment, which may replace the vaccination. I think we should look and examine those two sides, both the treatment which has come through by Pfizer and of course the normal vaccination, and alongside with the measures that have been instituted that we must heighten. And all the county governments and all the national governments now must work in concert to be able to reduce the intensity of this process. Otherwise, the pathogenesis of this disease will be precarious. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chararge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to support this motion and say it is timely. Mr. Speaker, I think the issue of COVID cannot be overstated because of its devastating effects on both health and economy that we are facing at the moment. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with colleagues that we need to ask the Health Committee to still be more proactive. Especially, there are so many questions that Kenyans have. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you because I've seen in online pictures that you have already taken AstraZeneca vaccine, and I think that is the confidence that we need to show Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, it's so sad that the Ministry of Health and Task Force of vaccination in the country is telling us that they have only vaccinated 40,000 Kenyans against 1.2 million COVID vaccines that were shipped into the country. This is very sad in as much as, Mr. Speaker, secondly, I did see the National Assembly passing the supplementary budget, or are yet to pass. In some of those issues that they are putting in supplementary budget, Mr. Speaker, I have not seen anywhere where they have given money the executive to purchase at least 47.5 million vaccines in the country. Mr. Speaker, there was a time that the task force, the committee, ad hoc committee recommended, Mr. Speaker, the investigation and special audit by the Auditor General, Mr. Speaker, on the use of COVID funds. It is sad that most counties did misuse and abuse the COVID funds that were allocated through donors and also through the government. I think we need to, the Health Committee should follow up on the implementation of that report that was done by the Auditor General on the usage of COVID vaccine. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we need to continue encouraging Kenyans to take vaccine. There are so many myths. There are so many in the public. Others are saying when you take a COVID vaccine, you can suffer with erectile dysfunction. Others are saying you become sick. So, Mr. Speaker, as a country, these are the myths that we need to ensure we send it out and encourage more people to take the vaccine. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Uta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to add my voice to this motion to alter the Senate calendar. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 is real. I have witnessed a number of my friends who have succumbed to this novel disease, and they are no longer with us. Mr. Speaker, I have seen that the Kenyan government is trying their best. As a member of Health Committee, we have invited the Cabinet Secretary who gave us a brief of the measures they are taking to curb the spread of the COVID-19. But Mr. Speaker, I have a concern. I have seen the ministries trying their best. They have already given the protocols that must be observed. And today, Mr. Speaker, over the weekend when I was in my county, the business as usual, if you go to the funerals, is packed. And people are still feasting like as if there is, a celebration. And this is something that I would really want to advise the government who is concerned, especially where I'm now the chair and oversighting them, the Cabinet Secretary, C.S. Matiang'i, that we must protect Kenyans. these protocols are not just given for the sake when we are feasting and people are dying, so that they can send a very strong signals to the people in the counties that we are living in a very difficult situation, different times, and therefore things have changed and people must observe the protocol that has been given by MOH. Number two, Mr. Speaker, as we leaders here today, I want to thank the ones who have gone to take the jab. But we have seen some evil bloggers who are sending wrong mixed motions to Kenyans and creating fears for people who can be vaccinated. And I want to urge again the Minister of Interior to be able to track down these people who are using the social media to discourage Kenyans. And that's why we have what we call a lower uptake of vaccine in various counties, so that they can smoke them out from where they are sending these wrong signals. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the leaders who have taken to the position.
What kind of information, Senator?
The Speaker,
Do you want to be informed?
I want to be informed.
Yeah, I'd like to inform my friend, Senator Uta, Mr. Speaker, that he's right on the misinformation. It includes a picture, Mr. Speaker, a doctored picture of Senator Outa, Mr. Speaker, taking the vaccine. And I can confirm, because I was the one who took the pictures for Senator Outa, that that is not the picture of Senator Outa. He does not wear anything else around his chest, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Outa.
I want to thank you, Senator Murkomen. That was real me. But that's why I'm also taking cue, and I want to warn the bloggers there. That are real situations, and we as leaders, we want to lead by example. You cannot go to see a doctor with clothes on and you want to be vaccinated. You have to remove so that you can.
What's your point of order, Senator Wetangula?
When Senator Outa says that was the real me, meaning it was him, the clip I saw was a man with a face of Fred Outa wearing a bra of a woman and trousers of a man, and he says that was the real me. Is that what you are wearing, Senator Outa?
Mr. Speaker, if you can see me, I'm a man. With full clothes, with all the materials that is required to be a man. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'm sending this information to Kenyans that we have bloggers outside there.
Senator Chilayako, there seems to be another.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Senator Outa is my brother and friend. What Senator Wetangula raised was, there is a picture of Senator Outa wearing bras. So the appropriate response would be not to ask the Speaker whether it is he is a man or not, but just to put it on record that that was a fake picture. Otherwise, it would give a very wrong impression of my brother that in spite of being a man, he goes about wearing bras.
Okay, Senator Outa, conclude.
I think that's what on a light note. But Speaker, today we're in a serious matter of the COVID-19. And that's why I wanted again to congratulate the leaders who took their time yesterday to get the job. But like I said, there are some evil bloggers who have taken on this space to disseminate wrong information to create fears. And that's why I'm urging the CS Cabinet Secretary so that we can track these people who are trying to create fears among Kenyans not to be able to even take the vaccine which the MOH has prepared have been sent throughout.
Your time is
so
up.
With a bra, with no bra, it was my intention to be a leader.
Your time is up. Honorable Senators, I see still a lot of interest, and we want to seek your intelligence because we have another very important motion about why we actually came to the House. So let me just allow Mahmoud.
Mr. Speaker, let me also take the opportunity to contribute to this adjournment motion. Mr. Speaker, it's very timely that the Senate is adjusting its calendar to be able to take care of what's happening in the country, because COVID-19 is really a disaster. The third wave is actually nothing which has been seen before, and quite a number of people are dying. And it's good that Senate actually adjusts its calendar so that we can only meet once. Once in a week, but for 2 sittings. And I agree with this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we are actually within this wave of the third wave, the seriousness with which COVID is attacking Kenyans cannot be overstated. We can see a lot of people dying. Our hospitals are crowded. There are no ICU beds, we are told now, in Nairobi. And in fact, to make the matter worse, hospitals are overcharging their ICU facilities, which is very unethical. And in fact, we urge the Ministry of Health, together with the county governments, to upscale their effort in dealing with this matter. Because I remember last time, county governments were actually supposed to put up ICU beds, and in the first, in the first wave. But now people seem to have been relaxed. I think this relaxation must be tightened now, because as we are, it's very serious. Now the vaccination has come. I think it started in the country. We will urge the government to actually upscale that also, so that as many Kenyans as possible are actually vaccinated. The first round and second round, so that it's not. It's actually there should be no delay in this. Mr. Speaker, the other one is the Kenyans should also stop being skeptical about everything. People are very skeptical about even the vaccines. People are doubting it. A lot of social media issues. We will trust our medics, our health professionals, so that we deal with this serious pandemic seriously. So, Speaker, a while on the floor, because I'm discussing under emotional adjustment, I would like to condemn an activity which happened today in Mandera. A bus flying between a place called Lefe and Mandera was actually attacked by Al-Shabaab. An IED exploded, and several people died. In fact, so far about 6 are dead, and many critically injured. This is a serious matter. In fact, Al-Shabaab and terror is a matter which is actually with us. We would like to urge the government to upscale whatever activity they're doing, that something is being done, to upscale that so that this matter is dealt with. We'll also tell our people to cooperate with the security agencies, not to relent in reporting what they can, and as much as possible to also, I think a time has come when our people should confront this Al-Shabaab, so that they are fought at every level. So this is a very serious matter. I condemn it in the serious with the Senate it deserves. We condole the people who have died. We condole the families who have lost the beloved ones. And this is a matter which, of course, requires a lot of attention from the government. I really urge the Ministry of Interior, with all the agencies, to upscale that and ask the people of Mandela also to cooperate, and during this time be able to stay calm. And as we deal with this serious matter, my condolences to the families of the bereaved. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to support.
I think that's all for now. Those who have not spoken will speak on the next motion. I now call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to respond. There are several issues that are raised by members which are really very critical for us as a House to decide, and also leadership, especially the committee aspect. It looks like Health Committee is not on top of things, and I think the leadership needs to make a decision. Of course, I know the ad hoc committee that was led by Senator Sakaja and later by Senator Sylvia, they did a very good job, Mr. Speaker. And I believe the last time before we went on recess, she shared with us the performance of all the counties as far as COVID funds usage was concerned, which was really very commendable. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, even after senators pointing out the rot in the counties and all that, our effort is just at the level of Auditor General, and no action is being taken. And I think we need to do something to follow up on the reports of Auditor General and see how we can hold those counties accountable. And that is really very critical. Again, Mr. Speaker, the issues of oversight of the counties. The responsibility still lies with us as members. We might be off for some time, but I think we need to check how our counties are performing. If we are having overcrowding and we don't have places in ICUs and hospitals in Nairobi here, I believe the counties are worse. Some of them, they don't even have ICUs. And I know some of the governors are running around saying they have ICU and they don't have. Ministry of Health, they need to tell us what is the real situation as far as counties are prepared for COVID. Awareness creation was also another matter that actually was brought up. If you go to the counties, life is normal. People are not wearing masks. Meetings are normal, you know, people hugging each other and doing all sorts of things. And I think this disease is not sparing anybody. We need to be on top of things and also advise the counties to create more awareness creation. With that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you and also respond to the issues raised, and I beg to respond. Thank you.
Okay, honorable senators, this is not a matter concerning counties. I therefore put the question, which is that notwithstanding the resolution of the Senate made on 16 February 2021, approval of the Senate calendar pursuant to Standing Orders 29.4 and 31.3, the Senate resolves to alter its calendar, regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 in respect of parts 2 and 3, to hold 2 sittings every week on Tuesdays only, morning and afternoon, beginning from 10 a.m. and ending at 12:30 p.m. for the morning sitting, and beginning at 2:30 p.m. and ending at 6:30 p.m. for the afternoon sitting, beginning on Wednesday, 24th March 2021 until Tuesday, 15th June 2021, and that the Senate's calendar regular sessions for the 5th session 2021 be altered accordingly. As manner of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As manner of contrary view, say nay. The ayes have it. Next order. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, before we go to the next order, and because we are going to be recessing, there's a point that my committee, the Committee on Agriculture, which is acting as badly. Mr. Speaker, we've had a bill here since October last year, the coffee bill. And we've been waiting for the bill to be brought here for first reading. That hasn't happened. Mr. Speaker, we are now hearing rumors that there's another bill which has been introduced which is being introduced in the National Assembly. And the rumors that we are hearing is that the leadership of Senate has acceded to withdraw our bill, the bill of this House. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture has worked on this, has had so many sittings on this bill, in and out of Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, when a committee represents this House, there cannot be unilateral decision from anywhere to withdraw our bill which belongs to this House and another bill be introduced. If the issue was that you had to agree, then how come that the bill from the other side, the leadership of this House acceded to another bill being introduced when your own bill has been pending there all this time? Mr. Speaker, this is not a matter that we are taking lightly as a committee, because a lot of work has gone into the bill up to where it is. Mr. Speaker, I think it's incumbent on the leadership to inform us and this House, because it's a matter of this House, what is happening.
Thank you. It's good you've said it's a rumor, because I lead the leadership. As I speak, I'm not aware of that, but let me give you a concrete response on Tuesday when we meet, when we convene here. What's your point of order?
On the same issue, Mr. Speaker, because I'm a member of that committee, I can confirm to this House that the chair is really speaking out of lots of pain. We all know he was a former Minister of Cooperatives, We also know that he's a coffee farmer and he's a representative of farmers, aside from the fact that he's the chair of the Agriculture Committee. He raised this matter to us, members of the committee. Mr. Speaker, you need to take this very seriously because the vice chair is there, Senator Wambua. This idea of undermining the authority and the responsibility of this House doesn't have sides. It doesn't have even biases. When it is about the authority of this House, it is expected that the majority leader, the minority leader, and yourself, Mr. Speaker, and members of Senate Business Committee will stand firm to defend the responsibility and the work that has been done in this House. And I can confirm that, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to coffee bill, in the same way we worked on the tea bill, this House did a lot of work. And you remember the tea bill was a private member's bill from Senator Cheriot, formed a committee, we improved it, government brought its their amendments, and eventually we have a tea bill that is, I see all the time in the president's page, government's page, conversation all over, but started from this House, from Senator Cheriot. The same way the committee, chaired by Senator of Embu, Mr. Speaker, came up with this bill. And imagine after putting all this effort, Mr. Speaker, suddenly you are told the bill is withdrawn from the Senate to be introduced in the Law House, and Mr. Speaker, under influence of people from outside. I think if there is any other, including the ministry and any government agency that wants to contribute to the bill, let them contribute to the bill as already commenced by the committee. And I have a lot of respect for government officials, but they should also have a lot of respect for senior citizens, like the chair of the committee, who have all served this country before and know how government works. Mr. Speaker, please, don't say you will give us comprehensive answer on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, aside from the comprehensive answer you are going to give for purpose of the record, I want you to consult with the chair today so that on Tuesday, it will just be a matter of introducing the bill itself, not communicating what happened to the bill. I think some of these things can be sorted not just by your communication. Your communication will say that matter has been sorted, but we are anxious and ready that the good work that has been done, Mr. Speaker, should not go to waste.
Okay, the information I have is, since the court ruling, we've had 34 bills republished, and the coffee bill is one of them. So I think we are not in any danger, and I can assure you that the leadership has been very keen on ensuring that we safeguard the interests and the integrity of this House. What's your point of order, Senator Sakaja?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the primary roles of members is to legislate directly or through their committees. And in as much as I might benefit from the knowledge, being in SBC of the status, I think it's very important that the leader of majority explain, because many members have bills, they don't know where they are, they don't know what has happened to those bills, they're not sure, committee, for instance, the question he has asked would have been answered a long time ago if you got that status, which we discussed at SBC. So maybe that statement should be shared on our platform, where each bill is, what stage it is, what has been published, when it's coming for first reading, so that not everyone asks about their individual legislation. That would help the situation, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Senator Chila Yako.
Oh, thank you. And sorry for speaking after the chair has made some preliminary responses. Chair, I understand my good friend Senator Njeru Ndwiga, whom we worked with very well in our previous lives, to be saying that a lot of work has gone into that bill, and that the court decision notwithstanding, to take that bill to another house to begin there is to minimize the structure of this house that has put excellent work in that bill, to undermine the experience and authority of that chair, for which Senator Murgoben is urging you to protect, because you are the protector of our passion, our dignity, our stature, and we cannot do such excellent job and then allow our job to queue somewhere else or to be made a place for guesswork. So if they want to start theirs, and ours has been started. Let us continue we converge or confluence somewhere down River Nile where we process all bills together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, I want to join in and strongly support the chair of the Committee of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, if the information you have been given that this bill is among the 34 and has been republished, then if it has been tabled in the lower house, then it's a continuing violation of Article 110(3). Because if it had come for concurrence, then our speaker would have the facts readily available that it was brought for concurrence, and indeed the two House speakers concurred. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the senator for Embu, a man known for extreme fairness, took up the coffee bill issue following the issue that I brought to this House and was roundly supported by members, because the same executive that is trying to bring the bill through the lower house is the same executive that took billions of shillings from World Bank and excluded counties that are growing coffee in one region of the country. The counties of Pokot, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Kakamega, Vihiga, Nyamira, Kisii, Kericho, Nandi, and others. Not a cent. And it's the same executive that is now sneaking the coffee bill through the National Assembly when Senator Ndwiga and his committee have sat, assessed the situation, drafted a bill that brings equity to the whole country. That if the funds are available, whether from the taxpayer or from donors, they must benefit all coffee growers. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge that the ruling or communication you will make on Monday, you try and inform this House whether the bill reintroduced in the National Assembly is among the 34. If it is, whether there has been concurrence in accordance to Article 110(3), and more importantly, agriculture is a devolved function. And being a devolved function, it's incumbent upon us and our committees to bring legislation that supports and enhances the quality of agriculture in the country, in all crops, be they cash crops or food crops. And I want to urge Senator Ndwiga and his team to remain seized of the matter and be eternally vigilant that our jurisdiction and authority is not constantly undermined by players outside the arena of Parliament.
Leader of Majority.
Speaker, I just want to thank the chairman of the Committee of Agriculture for being so concerned and raising the issues as pertinently and emotionally as he has done. Speaker, the one thing which has caught my attention is that the member is speaking about rumors. He has heard rumors. And rumors, Mr. Speaker, just like newspapers, cannot be produced in the House. And Speaker, the truth of the matter is government also is a source of legislation as much as we are. And that when we have an issue like this one, it's incumbent upon me, and I've already promised the member that I will be meeting with him in my office to discuss the matter. Because, Mr. Speaker, we are in a difficult situation. We are in a situation where, following the court ruling, we have a lot of republications, we have a lot of concurrences and so on. And so those things are communicated every week. Every time I issue a statement on the state of bills, you know which bills are being republished, which bills are undergoing concurrence, and so on and so on. And so being being the rumors are the ones that are moving us in this direction, Mr. Speaker. Let us together consult, the truth be given on Tuesday as to where it is. I don't believe myself that a bill initiated in this House can be reintroduced in another House just like that. No, I'm just saying, following the court ruling. I don't know whether in a class, you all know the rules. You don't shout from where you are. The truth is, following this new court ruling, we now have to seek concurrences, the Speaker and the other Speaker, on every bill, and to be republished afresh, as has been ruled. So let us wait and see. Instead of having ourselves emotionally so involved about these things, let us be, it is our duty to protect this House. It's our duty, so leave it to us. Let us do our duty. If we don't do it, then you have a reason to tell us we didn't do it. And I think that is where this matter should be. And Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, the majority leader must understand that he answers first to this House, Mr. Speaker, before he answers to any other person out there. And Mr. Speaker, to appear to be defending a position that takes away the jurisdiction of this House, Mr. Speaker, is an abdication of duty. I thought the majority leader would be speaking with authority, telling us that the Senate leadership, in no uncertain terms, will not accede to a situation where, Mr. Speaker, that bill will go to another chamber. In fact, I dare say, Mr. Speaker, if the debate is around concurrence, then the question is squarely in your hands, Mr. Speaker. If a bill is being republished, which was in this House, and then concurrence is being sought, how then do we find ourselves in a situation where debating that after a bill which was generated from this House has been republished for concurrence, that there can be concurrence and be introduced in another chamber? Mr. Speaker, should these things be a bit more straightforward? I really want to challenge the majority leader to appreciate that when there is a conflict between his position and any extraneous interest, even if it comes from executive, Mr. Speaker, he must defer to this House. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, a point of order is not a debate ending with, is it a point of order? That's not a point of order. Mr. Speaker, I have said it is not going to happen. The bill introduced down there might not even be your bill. It will be another bill. It's a coffee bill, but may not be your bill. So let's wait until all the facts are in there so that we can actually all communicate on Tuesday. And the Mr. Speaker will do that on Tuesday. So I don't see why we should be even debating a matter which has been raised to the Speaker to make a deliberation on. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say that if anything comes, I answer to both. I answer to this House, but I also answer to the government of the day. So I will not also allow for us to impute improper motives on leadership before you have the correct answers. Because I can tell you the bill down there might not be the same bill you're talking about. So there I rest.
Okay, I said I'll give a detailed response on Tuesday. That is the position. Next order.
Order number 9, motion of condolence on demise of His Excellency, the late Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, President of the United Republic of Tanzania.
Leader of majority.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya expresses its deep sadness at the death on the 17th of March, 2021, of His Excellency Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. Records its appreciation for the late President's immense contribution in public service to the people of Tanzania, where he served his people wholeheartedly up to the time of his death. He was a man of the people and a statesman who put his country first while championing East African integration spirit. Senate appreciates his efforts to foster unity and peace within the East African community, especially in the role Tanzania has been playing in stabilizing Somalia and its neighbors, Burundi. It also recognizes the high esteem in which he was held in the African continent in his pursuit of Pan-Africanism. The Senate further stands in solidarity with High Excellency Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, the new President of the United Republic of Tanzania, and the people of Tanzania in the true spirit of brotherhood within East African community in this difficult, and offers his profound sympathy and condolences to Her Excellency Mama Janet Magufuli and the entire family, the government and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania. Mr. Speaker, we are mourning within the 40 days of mourning that Tanzania has declared. It's also, Mr. Speaker, within the number of days that our own president declared mourning in our country. And, Mr. Speaker, we have seen and followed the progress from the day that we lost the President of Tanzania, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. The closeness that our country has with Tanzania, Mr. Speaker, is natural. It's as old as can be. We understand, Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning of the struggle for independence that the three East African countries then supported each other, and the rest of Africa supported each other to get independence. And when Dr. Pombe Magufuli was elected as the fifth president of Tanzania, Mr. Speaker, he brought in a new type of leadership, very different from some of the leadership that we've seen before in terms of the Chama cha Mapinduzi policies. Here is a man, Mr. Speaker, who worked like he knew his days were few and numbered. And he worked tirelessly, Mr. Speaker, and the media followed him everywhere, and we saw a man who went to the villages and spoke directly with villagers and sorted out issues in a style that is hitherto not seen. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Magufuli, or Dr. Magufuli, Mr. Speaker, entered office with a view to save the economy of Tanzania. And he has gone about, Mr. Speaker, in his various ways to make sure that Tanzania's economy has grown. And Mr. Speaker, he will be known for reviving the Air Tanzania. He'll be known also, Mr. Speaker, for many other achievements, including fighting corruption. And Mr. Speaker, the spirit with which he fought corruption. He fought as though he knew, Mr. Speaker, that he can serve 1 term or 2 terms, whatever. He worked very hard to make sure that in the provinces where the corruption had become entrenched, it's like our counties right now. So those are the same situations, Mr. Speaker. And I think that he went around and he addressed those issues head on. Mr. Speaker, we cannot have enough time for every one of us to speak about John Pombe Joseph Magufuli fully, because I know that there is interest and that I'm not going to take too long to try and express my own condolences, those of the people I represent of West Pokot, my family, to the people of Tanzania, and to make sure, Mr. Speaker, that we speak directly to the people of Tanzania. Mr. Speaker, there are some difficulties that we faced as a country, of course, and as a people during the times when John Pombe Magufuli was president, and some of them, Mr. Speaker, are things like the people of Kajiado County. When their livestock was taken in that direction, Speaker, I don't know whether they came back. There was a bit of friction. But, Mr. Speaker, the overall brotherhood that we have with the people of Tanzania did not change. Mr. Speaker, the business and the cross-border businesses has continued between our people and the people of Tanzania. We only had, I think, Mr. Speaker, a place where we could not all have agreed is on these COVID issues and how you handle COVID in the two countries. And we handled ours differently from the way that John Pombe Magufuli declared his country. And so, Mr. Speaker, with a man who has many attributes and has many friends in this country. He had direct friendships with people in this country, including His Excellency the President and His Excellency the former Prime Minister, and many others, Mr. Speaker. So I do want to bring the condolences of this House, so that, Mr. Speaker, at the end of it, we can extract a message that will go through the High Commission of Tanzania, to the people of Tanzania, and to Her Excellency Suluhu. And, Mr. Speaker, I think because ours comes in a bit late in the day, Mr. Speaker, a lot of people have spoken on their own in various, on various media forums, but here is our collective thought. Here is a time when the Senate of Kenya is going to show that we have also mourned along with our government and the other sister house that has already sent theirs. And, Mr. Speaker, yourself, Mr. Speaker, our own Speaker, has been to the embassy of the High Commission of Tanzania and has presented his and also our condolences directly to the ambassador or the High Commissioner. And so in this case, it's our time, Mr. Speaker, and I think that as many people as can contribute on this matter can speak on it. But personally, Mr. Speaker, I think I learned quite a few attributes from the way that a president of a country, a neighboring country, could decide, for example, that you don't get out of the country anyhowly. You can't just travel. He himself did not like to travel or did not want to travel, but did very few travels. And, Mr. Speaker, I think business can be done. I'm not saying that we should adopt that. I'm just saying how effective the words of a president can become a law in that country. And so, Mr. Speaker, in my own estimation, we have lost a great leader in the region. We've lost a leader with a different approach to things. And we've lost a leader who has had so much experience about the Tanzanian government and his party. Mr. Speaker, we want also now to congratulate his successor. For the first time, Mr. Speaker, in the neighborhood, we have a president, a woman president in our neighborhood who is going to serve the term out. Mr. Speaker, we think that this is a time now when women all over, the women of this East African region, can begin to also step up, Mr. Speaker, so that, Mr. Speaker, our people can see the leadership of a woman president and appreciate. And I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, that she will fight the same evils, the same vices that were there in the country, with the same strength as Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. I want to wish his family, his children, his extended family, and the people of Tanzania, including the Parliament of Tanzania, our condolences, and we say, as we say in mourning, that may God rest the soul of His Excellency John Pombe Joseph Magufuli in eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and ask the leader minority to second. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also join the leader of the majority as I second this bill to express my condolences to the people of Tanzania, the United Republic of Tanzania, to the party CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi, to the family of Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, and to Africa and the region as a whole. At a personal level, it will take me quite a long time to talk about John Pombe Magufuli. He's somebody I met through Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, with whom he had a very close relationship. I had occasion to visit his home before he became president in a delegation led by Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga in his home in Chato, together with the former president of Tanzania,
Benjamin Mkapa. I do not think that ever at that time it occurred to Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli that he was going to be the president of the United Republic of Tanzania. While at his home, we had quite a series of discussions on matters to do with the region, matters to do with Tanzania and Kenya, but it never occurred to us that he had any ambition, any burning ambition, ever to be the president of the Republic of Tanzania. So I'm on somebody who was humble, extremely civil, and many times very hilarious. It was easy to have a conversation with him. In fact, there could never be any dull moments as you talk to Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. And during his inauguration, again, a team from Kenya, and we were part of that team, witnessed his inauguration as the 5th president of the United Republic of Tanzania. I want to say the following. Human beings can never be perfect. Human beings can never be perfect. But I think those who make a difference in life are those who take a stand.
Members of the public who have turned up for vaccination. Many of these are not in the priority list on the ongoing phase of vaccination and hence threaten to present a challenge to our deployment plan. We advise all members of society not eligible for vaccination in the first phase to await their turn the moment we receive adequate doses. When the time comes, we shall announce this accordingly. We have often stated before that government is ready to collaborate with any and all stakeholders with regard to the provision and deployment of vaccines for the sake of our people. We have already made it clear that we are ready to accept any vaccines, not just the AstraZeneca which is currently in use, but this must follow all the laid down rules and procedures for approval, both locally and globally. Any vaccine distributed in Kenya must have emergency use authorization from a stringent regulatory agency, including WHO. Besides such, a vaccine must be registered for emergency use locally or by our own Pharmacy and Poisons Board. On this note, we have reports about the arrival of the Russian Sputnik V vaccines in the country. We also know a technical agreement stipulating the responsibilities of all parties involved in the distribution is yet to be submitted to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which means that the vaccine has therefore not received all the necessary regulatory approvals for use in the country. No vaccines available for sale in the country, as none have received market authorization. All vaccines in the country, as of now, are available for free, and that is the AstraZeneca vaccine, to eligible members of society at all designated vaccination facilities. We also intend to partner with the private sector and ensure in this partnership that there shall be stringent regulation. Eventually, all the vaccines that will be available in Kenya will have met all the regulatory requirements. Fellow Kenyans, as we battle another wave of COVID-19 pandemic, we must not forget the risks posed by the disease to those of us who have underlying conditions. Those with respiratory challenges could potentially suffer the most if exposed to the COVID-19 virus. And we must bear this in mind as we mark this year's World Tuberculosis Day today. Each year, the Ministry of Health and the world over commemorate the World TB Day on March 24th, with the aim of raising public awareness about the devastating health, social, and economic consequences of TB, and to set up efforts to end the global TB pandemic. The day dates back to 1882 when Dr. Robert Koch announced that he had discovered the bacterium that causes TB, which opened the way to diagnosing and curing this disease. World TB Day is designed to create public awareness. Tuberculosis still remains the world's deadliest infectious killer. Globally, nearly 4,000 people lose their lives to TB daily, and close to 28,000 people fall ill due to this preventable and curable disease. This year's theme of World TB Day calls for equitable access to prevention, treatment, and care in line with WHO's drive towards achieving universal health coverage. We have domesticated the theme to reflect Kenya's goals and targets, and our theme for Kenya is "The clock is ticking. It is time to end TB in Kenya." And we have a tagline which says, "Pimwa TB, tibiwa ishi poa." We are aware that TB patients have been known to face catastrophic costs while seeking treatment and care. And in the spirit of UHC, the target is to have 0 families facing catastrophic costs due to TB, thus the need to provide financial protection for these families. And that is why we are adopting a multisectoral approach in planning and implementation of appropriate, affordable primary healthcare interventions which transform the lives of Kenyans. Our health facilities continue to be alert to provide TB services, putting in mind that TB and COVID-19 more or less have the same symptoms, and therefore, in fact, the control of COVID-19 in Kenya would follow the same tangent as we aim to control TB infection, prevention and control, diagnosis, contact tracing, and isolation. The same strategies we use for COVID-19, we utilize for TB. We will ensure that normal programs and care for people with TB are not interrupted or affected as we address the current COVID-19 pandemic. Now, turning on to our COVID-19 situation in the country, we note that the last few days have been particularly disheartening, with a really high positivity rate that has remained so, and with hospitalizations that have also continued to rise. Some of our counties have particularly been hard hit compared to others. Over the last days, for instance, Nairobi had a total increase of 5,718 cases, while Kiambu had 800,000, Nakuru 626, Machakos 414, Kajiado a little over 200, Nyeri 100, and Kericho 58. Total between the 7 counties coming to 9,893, and accounting for the majority of the positive cases in the country. Nairobi's contribution to the positivity is staggering, fellow Kenyans, and stands at close to 57.7%. And that is very high and disheartening, as we've said. As we have repeatedly said, it would be irresponsible for us to sit back and watch the situation deteriorate further. And unless this trend is arrested, we may have no alternative but to take more stringent measures as necessary to protect the lives of our people. In terms of our cases today, our positivity stands at 16.5%, with 1,540 people having tested positive from a sample size of 9,348. From the cases, 1,446 are Kenyans, 94 are foreigners, 829 male, 711 females, with the youngest being a 6-month-old infant and the oldest being 110 years. Our total confirmed positive cases now stand at 124,707. We continue to provide you with the county distribution, and as highlighted again today, Nairobi does have the highest number with 865. Nakuru has 139, Machakos has 82, Kiambu 76, Kajiado 42, Uasin-Gishu 36, Turkana 33, Mombasa 29, Kericho 20, Kisumu 20, Trans Nzoia 17, Kitui also 17, Narok 14, Migori 13, Bomet, Bungoma, Kilifi, Nyeri, Garissa, Nandi, all have 12 cases, whereas Kisii has 8, Laikipia 7, Meru 7, Tharaka-Nithi 7, Mandera and Nyandarua have 6 cases, Siaya have 4, Kakamega, Elgeyo Marakwet and Busia have 3, Makueni, Murang'a, Baringo have 2, Tana River has 1 case, together with West Pokot, Homa Bay, Kirinyaga, and Kwale and Lamu, all having 1 case. We've provided you with the county disaggregation, looking at all the different wards in each of those counties. And in terms of our recoveries, we have 184 patients who've recovered from this disease, 95 from the home-based isolation care, while 89 are from various health facilities. And total recoveries stand at 90,770. And we thank our healthcare workers for the good work that they continue to do right now to enable us to achieve these results. Unfortunately, 18 deaths have been reported in the last 24 hours, and out of this, 1 has occurred in the last 24 hours, while 17 are late death reports from facility record audits that occurred on diverse dates. This now pushes our cumulative fatalities to 2,066. And we continue to extend our sincere condolences to the families and friends of those who've lost their loved ones. In terms of patients currently admitted in various health facilities, we have 1,073 patients, whereas 3,315 are in home-based care isolation, 141 are in the intensive care unit, 34 are on ventilatory support, 99 on supplementary oxygen, and 8 of these patients are on observation. Another 60 also are on supplementary oxygen, while 43 of them are in general wards and 12 are in the high dependency unit. And so really, one of the messages we've been asking and really trying to reaffirm is that we need to have our guard high. We need to have our guard high. We've seen people exercising laxity when it comes to these COVID adherence measures. And it's really disheartening, because if you're standing here as we are right now, then you'd be seeing the really true picture that is happening in our hospitals, to the point where people are missing beds right now in ICU units. And so we need to really stand guard and ensure we adhere to these containment measures. Today, as we've mentioned, today is World TB Day, and TB has numerous similarities when you compare it with COVID-19. In fact, TB is more infectious when you compare it with COVID-19. And it is important that we do not forget to invest in controlling TB, in eradicating TB in Kenya. And so in this regard, we are here joined by our partners today from WHO and USAID, who will also share a statement when it comes to the efforts that we have in place as a country in terms of controlling and eradicating TB in Kenya. I'll invite Dr. Rudy to start with a statement from WHO. Karibu, Daktari.
Thank you, Dr. Mangangi. Is this on? So Dr. Mangangi, Dr. Patrick Amoth, the Director General, Mr. Wilson, the Deputy Head of USAID, ladies and gentlemen, habari asubuhi. This afternoon, WHO is honored to mark World Tuberculosis Day, commemorated every 24th March. This year, the theme is "The Clock is Ticking," and it reminds us that we need to step up our efforts towards ending TB epidemic by 2030. Despite the challenges presented by this pandemic, tuberculosis is a preventable and curable disease, yet it is a leading cause of death due to a single infectious agent globally. It ranks 4th among the top 5 causes of death in Kenya. Kenya is among the top 30 high-burden countries for TB, HIV comorbidity, multi-drug resistance TB. It is estimated that every year Kenya loses an estimated 37,000 persons to tuberculosis. In September 2018, Kenya joined other UN member states in the first ever UN high-level meeting for TB on the fringe of the UN General Assembly, in making global commitments towards accelerating its efforts and investment towards ending the epidemic. Although Kenya now ranks among the countries that have achieved the 2020 milestone for the End TB strategy, as evidenced by the declining tuberculosis incident of 30% and the mortality by 45% between 2015 and 2019, a lot still needs to be done. To accelerate the efforts at country level, WHO recommends a multi-sectoral approach and accountability framework that brings together all relevant sectors and stakeholders in the spirit of leaving no one behind in this fight. We commend the efforts of the Ministry of Health and all stakeholders in their response to address the TB scourge by implementing patient-centered approaches and adopting high-impact interventions towards finding missing people with TB and provision of quality treatment and care. They include innovative strategic initiatives and facility-based active case finding at community and facility level, respectively, in response to the national survey findings and recommendations. Further, the expansion of diagnostic capacity and adoption of new diagnostic tools to strengthen the surveillance system has improved the access to universal testing and accurate diagnosis and increasing treatment coverage. The adoption of differentiated treating models and the rollout of new treatment recommendations, including the pediatric formulation, the new multi-drug resistance TB injection-free medicine, the rifapentine-based medicines for the treatment of latent tuberculosis, and the integration of TB and HIV services has ensured that patient access quality care results in favorable outcomes. The COVID-19 pandemic threatens to reverse these gains by directly or indirectly posing barriers to accessing TB care by creating fear, stigma, and economic hardship for people with TB, and mounting pressure to the health systems and disrupting TB services. To ensure continuity and maintenance of essential TB services, we call for coordinated efforts and pooling of resources among all stakeholders towards safeguarding accessing TB services in the wake of this evolving pandemic. Integration of TB screening, testing, and contact tracing interventions into the existing COVID-19 response and vice versa will go a long way to ensure that we leverage on existing mechanisms to complement the efforts to control both life-threatening respiratory diseases. Today, WHO is releasing updated recommendations and implementation guidelines on systematic screening of TB disease, including the use of chest radiography to improve early detection of TB. We appreciate the Kenyan Ministry of Health's ongoing focus and priority for bringing this bad disease under control. Thank you. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rudy. I'll also invite Mr. Wilson from USAID. Karibu.
To our colleagues and partners, here at the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, and to all the fellow warriors in the fight against TB, please allow me to say all protocols observed and greet you as colleagues and friends. Good afternoon, Hamjambo. I'd like to, on behalf of the United States government, thank CS Kagwe, PS Mochache, and all of our partners here at the Ministry of Health for inviting us to be part of this year's commemoration of World TB Day. The theme that has been chosen for this year, "The Clock is Ticking," reminds all of us that world leaders have committed to ending tuberculosis by the year 2030. Tuberculosis killed an estimated 1.4 million people around the world in 2019, making it more deadly than HIV and malaria combined. Here in Kenya, an estimated 140,000 people were diagnosed with TB. 33,000 Kenyans died from TB in 2019. So now, today, more than ever, we need a sense of urgency to fight this disease. Kenya is a critical partner in the global effort to stop TB through Kenya's national TB program. And the United States is proud to continue supporting Kenya in this fight against tuberculosis. This support is part of more than 60 billion Kenyan shillings provided every year by the American people to strengthen the Kenyan health sector. And despite the huge challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya has made massive strides in the fight against TB. TB attacks the lungs and other organs, but it is curable. TB treatment is free in Kenyan public health facilities, thanks to the initiatives of the government of Kenya and the support of development partners such as the United States. But fear of contracting COVID-19 has prevented some people from seeking medical help when they need it. Precious time is being lost before TB testing and treatment can begin. The United States is committed to supporting Kenya through TB testing, treatment, and training of healthcare workers, and to educating the Kenyan public about this deadly disease. Through the United States Agency for International Development, the U.S. government has helped identify 73,000 cases of TB here in Kenya in the year 2020. And through our Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we support TB test quality control and help create a patient-centered approach to treatment. With support from the United States, Kenya is launching new policies to curb TB and rolling out new injection-free treatments with fewer side effects for drug-resistant forms of tuberculosis. But we need your help. TB can affect anyone, regardless of where you come from, regardless of whether you suffer from other diseases, such as HIV. So today, I encourage every Kenyan to learn about TB, recognize what the symptoms are, and if you think you might be sick, go and seek medical help. And I especially want to speak to my brothers out there. Men make up more than half of tuberculosis cases. And I know that as men, sometimes we are reluctant to go to the doctor when we need to. But men, when you take care of your health, you are stronger and better able to take care of your families as well. We're all in this fight together, and the clock is ticking. So please, join us in this effort to stop TB. Pimo TB, TB wa ishipoa. Thank you all very much. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson, for that passionate appeal to the Kenyan male to present themselves when they have these symptoms. I think now we'll have a round of questions and answers. Do we have any questions? No questions? We encourage questions.
My name is Dorcas Wangera. Yes. My name is Dorcas Wangira, Citizen TV. First of all, you didn't mention the numbers in ICU today. You could kindly mention that. So I have 3 questions, and just seeking a clarification about Sputnik 5 or Sputnik V. You mentioned yesterday there were reports that it has been approved for emergency authorization by the PPB. So can you just kindly clarify? And yes, you've said that no vaccine has been approved for market authorization. But what does this emergency use authorization mean? And then my second question is to Dr. Amoth. And it's just for the public. What should you do when you test positive now? And for those who are asymptomatic and in home-based care, at what point should they go to the healthcare center seeking for help? And then lastly, what you've mentioned also again, regulatory approval. What is in the public domain was an advert of people selling a jab for 11,000 shillings. Just kindly clarify to Kenyans that no vaccine still is available for sale.
My name is Paul Kirobi from TV47. My question is regarding the new vaccine. You've mentioned that the Ministry of Health has noted there's a new vaccine from Russia. So our concern is, has the vaccine has it been approved by the Kenya Poisonous Board or not? And there were claims that it will range between 5,500 to 11,000. Yeah.
My name is Sada Hassan from Standard. My question is on what are the regulatory measures that you will put in place to ensure that, when such vaccines come in, rogue individuals or institutions do not take advantage of this? And also, the last question is, what are the gatekeeping procedures that you have put in place, even as we continue to receive such cases or misinformation happening within us as a country? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for those questions. The questions touch on 2 key areas. The first one is on what we're doing in terms of the vaccines that are available in the Kenyan market. How do we allow or how do we regulate the availability of these vaccines? And how does that process look like? How do we protect that process against any issues when it comes to accountability, transparency, but also counterfeit? And let me start with the Sputnik issue. One, Sputnik has been able to apply to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board for what is known as emergency market authorization. And the difference between this and full market authorization would mean that in full market authorization is much the same way you'd have, and I'll give you an example, paracetamol, which we call Panadol, which we call Maramoja, which has many names in the market, which we allow the distributors to sell and market to Kenyans. That is what would be known as market authorization, allowing this vaccine to be free within the country for marketing and for sale and consumption by the Kenyan population. Emergency market authorization is a little bit different. It is perhaps what you'd call a step before full market authorization, and it comes with a set of stringent measures, and particularly regulatory measures that essentially would involve, 1, authorization of whatever agent is being given EMA authorization, 2, tracking of batches of the commodity or medicine that comes in, 3, very stringent reporting to the pharmacovigilance platform through the PPB, 4, restrictions on advertising. And this touches on the question that you've asked. We have seen those adverts. Those adverts are false. There's no current pharmacy or hospital in the country that has a Sputnik 5 vaccine with them. And through the emergency market authorization, it is actually illegal for a facility to advertise and to say that it has that commodity. One thing that is important for us to understand, and we've said it today in the statement, and Waziri has said it before numerous times, we actually are encouraging partnerships. 1, with the private sector, but 2, technically, even when it comes to the vaccine platforms that are available. The science tells us that the different vaccines that have been approved, remember the trials were done in different geographical areas. Pfizer, Moderna primarily in America, Sputnik in Russia, Astra in the UK and a few other countries, and many, many other platforms that are coming in. And so by the end, and as we continue with our vaccine drive, you will continue to see new vaccine entrants coming in and available to the Kenyan market. And what is important for the public to understand is that all this happens through a two-tier mechanism of regulatory approval. Before any commodity vaccine is approved by PPB, even for emergency market authorization, it requires to have undergone through stringent mechanisms that the PPB recognizes and accredits. If we look at Sputnik 5, it's already in use in close to 68 countries across the world, meaning it has undergone through the SRA mechanisms, and even as it comes here for assessment in Kenya, we'll be able to look at their data, look at the efficacy of the vaccine, look at the safety profile of the vaccine. Upon approval, ensure that we have the correct batch numbers submitted to us, the correct areas of distribution submitted and accredited by the Ministry of Health. So it is a very stringent mechanism, and we are continuing, like I say, to encourage more and more vaccine platforms. One, because the science tells us it is important to do that, because these trials have taken place in different regions. As we speak today, it's not just Sputnik 5. We have 2 other candidates already who have applied to PPB, who are undergoing that process to ensure at the end of it, if they qualify, they'll be able to get their emergency market authorization. Another important element that we really have to clarify for you as the Ministry of Health is that the vaccines issued by government shall be procured through 2 key facilities. The COVAX facility, of which we're getting those as grants, and number 2, looking at the Africa CDC AU mechanism. Should there be need for us to source more vaccines, we shall go direct to manufacturer. And what this means is that we shall not be dealing with local distributors within the country. We shall be dealing directly with the manufacturers, be it AstraZeneca, be it Pfizer, be it Moderna, be it Sputnik. That will be the mechanism that we will use. We have continued to say, and DG will clarify on this, the aim of a vaccination program is to vaccinate as many people as possible to be able to attain that glorious target of herd immunity. And to do that, you need a set number of vaccines available in the country. So far, we have vaccines coming in from the COVAX facility. We will be exploring mechanisms of procuring more vaccines, as I've stated before, but we are recognizing the role that private sector plays as we continue to try and reach that goal. And so government is partnering with private sector, and will continue to encourage this partnership. The other question that has been asked, I think, includes the number of admissions today in ICU. I think if I got you right, we have 141 patients who are in ICU, of which 34 of them are on ventilatory support, 99 are on supplemental oxygen, 8 are on observation. I think at this point, unless I've missed a question, I'll have the DG perhaps emphasize on these components, particularly the issue of pharmacovigilance, how we intend to monitor this, as well as the misinformation that is out there. DG Karibu. And then thereafter, we'll have Dr. Akwale also who will speak on this.
Thank you, Madam CS. Before I go into the issues of the vaccine, let me address the issues that were raised by my sister from Citizen. That what happens when you test positive? The first thing is that do not panic. Testing positive is not equivalent to death. And the next measures that will be undertaken will be based on the advice of your healthcare provider, who probably in the first case is the one who sent you for the test. And based on that, the healthcare provider will be able to design a system of management based on your symptomatology. But there are other general measures that will apply to everybody, including taking an adequate and balanced diet, adequate rest, and of course, adequate rehydration, and plenty of vitamin D, which you can obtain naturally by basking in the sun for about 20-30 minutes. Second question was about home-based isolation care. You know, this is a platform that we've implemented from last year based on protocols that were given by WHO, which we customized locally to be able to suit our own local situation. And it is based on that certain people then fit a criteria that qualifies them for home-based isolation care under the supervision of a community health volunteer or a qualified healthcare worker. And from those guidelines, there are trigger events which will be able to alert the community health volunteer or the qualified healthcare worker to be able to make a decision to move you into a facility-based care. Some of these include issues, things like if you develop a fever, if you develop difficulty in breathing, persistent cough which is not resolving, and where we are able to check your oxygen saturation levels, declining oxygen saturation levels. Those are some of the trigger events that will make us move you to a facility-based care from a home-based care isolation platform. Regarding the issues of pharmacovigilance vaccine, indeed we want to see a system, a foolproof system from the point of manufacture of the vaccine to the end user. And we have developed a system, an online system or a digital platform called Chanjo KE, which can be able to pick all this information, including adverse events following immunization. So through that portal, once you have been vaccinated, your system has been entered in, your data has been entered into the system, you'll be able to receive an alert, and you can be able to report from that SMS alert whatever you are experiencing. So we have teams all over the country with the support of PPB and the National Vaccines Immunization Program to be able to report on those. But so far we have vaccinated more than 56,000 people, and we have not had any adverse events following immunization. And we hope going forward this situation will obtain. Finally, the hospitals which are holding back bodies of deceased persons who die from COVID-19, it is the instruction of the Ministry of Health that any person who has passed on as a result of COVID-19 disease, the bodies must be expeditiously be released for burial in accordance with the burial protocols that were highlighted during AKI's address to the nation on 12th of March, which is within a period of 72 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Let me invite Dr. Akwale to share with us the current progress on where we are with this deployment plan and how we are going. Karibu, Daktari.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kas Mwangangi. I want to assure Kenyans the vaccination process is going on very well, as the Cabinet Secretary said. In fact, on Monday, we vaccinated over 8,000, and yesterday we went above 10,000. This afternoon, we're already near 9,000 by 3. So we are definitely increasing every day. During the first week, and I really want to point the date, the week of 8th is our real first week of vaccination. I know we had a launch in Kenyatta, but that was more of a ceremony. But the week of 8th is when counties began. On average, we were doing 3,000 per day. Secondly, the next week, we are now been doing 3,700. We went to 5,000, and now we are doing 10,000. Next week, we are aiming at 20,000 vaccinations per week. And it is all falling according to our plan. No issues of resistance, in fact, overwhelming enthusiasm and demand. In fact, I would just urge Kenyans, this is the time, if you really want that vaccine, come forward and get it. And if you're in the priority group, very soon you'll see those numbers and stocks almost getting over. So you have an opportunity, do not hesitate. Now, let me just say something about Sputnik. It's not really so much the mandate of my task force, but what we know is that there's a regulator. There's the private sector, there's the regulator, pharmacy, and poisons board. It has its rules, regulations, and guidance on the private sector when it brings in the vaccine. What I also know, the CEO of Pharmacy and Poisons Board has been directed to publish those requirements so that anybody should understand what it takes for that to be effective. So we are hoping that that will be done as soon as possible. But that should be what should guide the media to understand what is happening in the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. I think one other final thing is the issue of misinformation. And I think, I can't remember who asked this question, but someone has asked, what are we doing when it comes to misinformation? And I want to remind us all that we really do bear a responsibility, each individually and collectively, when it comes to misinformation. Today, looking at the papers, we've seen reports that are false, that are inaccurate, and it is important that the Fourth Estate understands the role it plays also in this COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly as we deploy vaccines. When you have a headline that speaks to a negative deployment plan or negative progress, that reverberates with the community, and that has implications even when it comes to vaccine hesitancy. And so it's important that even as you ask us, what are we doing about misinformation, that we turn it back to you. What are you doing as the Fourth Estate about misinformation? So let us support the plans that government has put in place. We are fighting very hard, like we've told you, each and every day. I can tell you, we are all busy trying to ensure that the response continues on and that we save the life of Kenyans. So let us all please work together and collaborate and avoid misinformation. Thank you.
Spending. Those are things that any leader should be able to do. Mr. Speaker, when I heard that the late Magufuli had suspended the spending of lavish budgets during World International AIDS Day, it shocked me. But then, when I heard the response as to why he had done that, then I looked up to him and I said, one day, when I'm president of this country, I shall be able to do the same. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry, when the late Magufuli decided to cancel International World AIDS Days and use that money instead to buy drugs to be able to curb the disease, that meant so much, not only for Tanzania, but it should have been a lesson for the rest of our leaders. When you speak about truth, Madam Speaker, some of the things that I see happening in this country, I wish that we cannot just preach, water and drink wine. One of the biggest problems we have is that when we have local problems, which some of us are the ones who are the cause of those problems, instead of us now running away from it, or instead of us putting our own selfish interests, we should be looking at local solution. Madam Speaker, I know that Magufuli would not have looked at, for example, a company like the National Oil Corporation, which is now in debt with both Kenya Commercial Bank and the Standard Bank, and given it and suggested that it should be given out to private companies to be able to try and put that company back. He would have looked at the government and said, we must have a solution to this problem. But instead, this country called Kenya, we don't look at our neighbors here and learn from them and see the progress that Magufuli brought into Tanzania. Instead, we put our own personal interest. This is something, Madam Speaker, which I really pray that all the leaders, cabinet secretaries, I came across a letter which was written by the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, to the National Oil Corporation, and telling them that we cannot be able to inject more money into the company, what we need to do is for you to look for a suitable company out there and surrender the interim management of the company to try and be able to, to rebuild the company. I see that as running away from the problems that we have in this country. What Magufuli would have done is would have sat down, tried to discover what was the problem, as he has done so in so many incidences that were demonstrated in social media when he tried to solve problems. Madam Speaker, the people of Tanzania will remember their leader as someone who did not cherish lavish spending, someone who did not see himself as very superior or someone who cannot be reached by anyone. I've seen several videos where individuals just go to him and say, please, Bwana President, help me. And he would go back to the little salary that he earned. Because what I remember very well, Madam Speaker, and this is one of the things that I'll remember President Magufuli for, is that when he took over as president, he reduced his salary from $15,000 to $4,000 a month. That is something that we, as leaders in this country, cannot even contemplate. We cannot even think of doing that. And he was still able to share the $4,000 that he earned with the people who came crying to him for support. Madam Speaker, the demise of President Magufuli really should teach us a lesson. That we're in this world for a very, very, very brief moment. No one would have thought that Magufuli would die. But it just reminds us that we're all mortal beings. That the brief moment that we're given from our mother's womb to our tomb, we should not be remembered on how much wealth we accumulate in this country, but how much we serve the people who actually elect us and give us an opportunity to represent them. You know, when we go out there, there are so many controversies. One which was very interesting, and I always remember Magufuli for, is that he actually looked at the people who were busy promoting birth control pills and saying, you people are lazy. You're saying you cannot raise more than 2 kids. You know, I think now, for me, I believe that I think we should not even consider birth control pills. What we should be doing is that we should be trying to emulate what Magufuli said, because once we have responsibilities, then we can actually be able to fight this issue called corruption. Because when you know that you have to provide for more than 2 children, then you will stop being lazy. So, Madam Speaker, I know that a lot of my colleagues would like to contribute to this, and I would like just to end by saying the following things. We should learn to speak the truth, and we should learn to defend it. That's what I saw in Magufuli, although some of the things that he said could have been controversial, but based on what he stood for. You know, that is one thing that most of us in this country, you know, anytime you're seen to be standing firm, instead of people judging you by the content of your speech or by your stand, they start saying this person is flip-flopping, has gone to this political party, has done all these things. It is a matter which my colleague, Senator Orengo, was talking about. Standing firm and being known for speaking the truth and defending that truth is what we should be doing in terms of looking at leaders, looking at their characters. And us as leaders, we should not try to gain mileage. We should not try to gain mileage by using other leaders' names. You know, my good friend, Senator Malala, the other day spoke about him having spoken to me so that I can join the ANC. In fact, the other day I asked him, I said, my brother, when did you speak to me? For me, I can be as controversial as I want to be, but I remain a member of ODM. So all these hula baloos that this person has gone to Tanga, we should look back at what Magufuli used to say. He didn't care. In fact, one day he arrested our own people, the Maasais, who apparently were grazing cows in a game reserve. It took the intervention of my party leader, you know, Raila Amolo Odinga, for those Maasais to be released. So I thank that. He stood firm, he said this is what we want to do, and we respected each other. So, Madam Speaker, finally, I want to encourage the widow, Her Excellency Janet Magufuli, to take heart. Because this is just a passing cloud. All of us here are a passing cloud. You know, there's that song where people used to sing and say, this world is not my home. I truly believe in it. And finally, for the president-elect, or the president who has taken over, you know, Her Excellency President Suluhu, I hope that the rest of us in this country called Kenya can be able to see that even a woman can become president of this country. You know, and I hope and I pray to God that the brief moment that God would give me from my mother's womb to my tomb, I will see a woman becoming president of this country so that we can be able to support everyone who lives in this country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Fatuma Dulo. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity to join my colleagues in a condolence message to the people of Republic of Tanzania for having lost their president. Madam Speaker, personally, I've not had personal interaction with the late president. But from what I have observed, Madam Speaker, I don't need protection, but consultation should be done 1.5 meters apart, because it looks like everybody is crowding you. So you might be infected. You have to be very careful. Madam Speaker, you need to protect me from Senator Sakaja. Madam Speaker, what I have seen in the late president, Madam Speaker, was a true servant leader. Madam Speaker, I have watched videos where the late president could interact with his people down at the grassroots level without actually choosing who is who. Madam Speaker, I have seen him actually ordering civil servants, or rather even giving instruction to make sure that they have done ABCD. And those who have failed to meet that requirement, Madam Speaker, in some cases I've seen where he has dismissed certain officers there and then. Madam Speaker, the late president had actually improved, or rather turned around, the economy of Tanzania. In one of the cases that I have read, Madam Speaker, instead of having a lavish ceremony after he was elected, where I believe Kenyans cannot afford to do that, he said instead of having a ceremony, I would rather do a road in Dar es Salaam, which he did that particular road. And that is humility. And that is a true leader that we have seen in the late president. Madam Speaker, I have also seen the way he interacted with even youths in his country, the artists. I have seen musicians who are coming in actually saying, the president called me yesterday and he said ABCD. Where in Africa can you find that kind of a leader? That is a true servant of the people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know there are so many people who really criticized the late Magufuli. But you know, a true leader, normally, who is very strong, can easily be criticized because of his actions. Before the way he actually carried out his work, he could appear actually unpronounced in even some offices to find out how people are doing, which is really very commendable. Madam Speaker, I know that it's really very difficult at this particular moment for Tanzania people to get maybe somebody like Magufuli to come back and really revive what he has done, but Magufuli had made a track record in Tanzania that all East African members need to emulate. Madam Speaker, and I wish actually to confirm to this House that when we started Jubilee, because I sat in the team that actually drafted Jubilee Manifesto, the intention then that the President and the Deputy President of this Republic had was to have a CCM-like party in Kenya. But simply because of the tribal nature of our politics, we were unable to achieve that particular position. And Kenyans really need to learn from that, which is really very important. Because if you go to Tanzania, even the way they present themselves, Madam Speaker, they will always talk of unity. Sisi wa Tanzania, you know? They don't say Sisi, you know, this tribe or that tribe. But as Kenyans, you know, we always talk about our tribes, our clans, that is actually dominating our politics, which is not right. And the death of the late president of Tanzania is something that Kenyans need to learn from. Madam Speaker, I really thank the president, the late president of Tanzania, having made the current president, Samia Suluhu. It's very hard for African leaders to trust their deputies, and more so a lady who was made to be what she is today. I watched her maiden speech, Madam Speaker. And that woman is truly made president for Tanzania. The confidence I've seen in her. And I remember what she said. Wale ambaye wanashuku huyu ni president. That is a confidence that she has given to Tanzanian people. Huyu ni president ambaye ana jinsia ya mwanamke. That is a strong word. And we must actually owe that to the late president. And that is something actually Kenyans need to learn from. Because given the opportunity, women can actually do wonders in this world. And what we are asking from our brothers and our sisters, give us the opportunity, and we will be able to deliver in that. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the President of this Republic, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. Number one, he said, liwe liwalo, I had to attend this funeral. And he's the only president of East Africa who attended that funeral. That is a true leader. Number two, I really commend him for respecting Islamic religion, because when he was offering his speech, Madam Speaker, this is something I'll never forget, and I'll have to actually mention to him when I meet him. He stopped his actual speech just to observe Adhan, and that is truly the teaching of Islam. That is a true leader who respects the religion of his people. And at that particular time, everybody actually lauded him for that. Madam Speaker, we have a lot to learn from the death of the late president of the Republic of Tanzania. We have a lot to do ourselves. I remember before Magufuli came in, I had some friends in Tanzania who say when we come to Nairobi, it's like us going to Europe. Right now, things are the other way around. Maybe one day we are the ones to say we are going to Europe, which is Tanzania. And the same even to Rwanda. Rwanda, the other day, they were actually getting experts from Kenya. The teachers who are going to teach in the universities. The people who are going to work in the hospitals. They used to rely on us. But today, where is Rwanda and where is Kenya? This is something we really need to think about as a country. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for this opportunity, but my parting shot is that really as a country we need to learn from what is happening in other parts of the world. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, I want us to be fair to everybody because people have waited. We have 15 members. We have 70 minutes. We don't have 75 anymore. 75 would have meant 5 minutes each. I want to seek your indulgence. Can we limit the time? Can we say 5 minutes, we'll drop one person. Can we say 4 minutes? So how many minutes? So if we say 5 minutes, one person will not have a chance. So if you use your discretion, please, those of you who can reduce the minutes, it will be done. I don't want to take the 1 minute remaining. I also want to assure you we'll follow the order the way it is. But if you allow me, I will get Senior Senator Wako, who you are all aware will need a rest very soon because he has not finished his rest period. Thank you, Senator Wako. I'll be making another request a little later. We have 2 seniors here.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to convey my sincere condolences on my own behalf and the people of Busia to the family of John Pombe Joseph Magufuli and the people of Tanzania. I think I may be the only one or 2 others who can say that I'm an alumni of the university where the late president went, and that is the University of Dar es Salaam. You cannot appreciate properly Tanzania's and Magufuli's contribution properly unless you know where Africa has come from, where the black man has come from slave trade. Then they said, we cannot take you away from your country, we shall leave you in your country under colonialism. Then from colonialism, they said, okay, govern, but we shall be in control of our economy. In other words, we have really suffered economic exploitation, the African people and the black people. And that's where I believe Tanzania, and particularly John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, made a sterling contribution. John, the president, maybe is the only one who within 5 years has lifted his country from being referred to as the least developed country to the lower middle income economy. In East Africa, it was only Kenya which was the lower middle income economy. But Magufuli, within 5 years, the record, was able to lift Tanzania from the least developed to this economy. And it is hard work, my dear friend, to be able to do that and to galvanize the entire nation and the people to focus on issues of economic development. How did he do that? Number one, he renegotiated all the mining agreements. People used to say, why is it that Tanzania is the most richly endowed country with natural resources, more than any other, and yet Kenya, without much, has a better economy? The secret was that the mining industry, the multinationals, they were exploiting the minerals of Tanzania and not paying any tax whatsoever. Magufuli changed all that, and they began paying taxes in billions of dollars. And that now freed and made available the money to infrastructure. And that's why in Tanzania today, most of the infrastructures that have taken place, and there are many, whether it's roads, hospitals, universities, whatnot, have been done with their own internal resources, not from borrowed money. He did that also by being very tough in negotiations. For example, on SGR, they also have an SGR, but the cost of that SGR in Tanzania is far much less than the cost of the SGR that we have in Kenya. He also introduced what we call work ethic. In fact, the first day, morning, that he, as president, he went very early in the morning to the Treasury, the Ministry of Finance, and caught many people had not arrived and whatnot and so on. And then he visited a few other offices during the first year of his office, and that introduced work ethic in Tanzania. So Tanzania is no longer the Tanzania that was there when I was a student, and when we used to say that these people cannot work. They're more or less lazy, waiting for to come down on the ground. But then today, they report on time, they work very hard for the sake of the country. He also reduced government expenditure. But most important of all, and really we have learned from each other, he dealt with the issue of corruption very ruthlessly. Madam Speaker, I just told this House that I've gone through a terrible 5-week period of COVID, serious COVID. When I read the paper,
One minute. I give you 1 minute to wind up what you are saying.
Yeah, okay. I see that the auditor's report has said that governors have misused COVID money. But nothing appears to be happening to them. We see what is happening to KEMSA. Nothing is happening to them. I don't think that would happen in the Tanzania of Magufuli. I want to commend our president for the very good speech he gave on the issue of East African unity, and it was the only speech, I believe, that Suluhu Samia, and Samia is, of course, as you know, we have a sub-ethnic group in Luhya called Samia. I think you're aware of that. Samia Suluhu, Samia Suluhu is the only, referred only to President Kenyatta by name speech in his address at the state funeral. Nyerere was prepared to delay the independence of Tanganyika so that we can have East African community. And I think the tribute we can give to Magufuli, now that even our president is the chairman of the East African community, is to ensure that we move on the road to confederation, to the Federation of East Africa.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sakaja Johnson. Then I'll come back to another thing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is such an important motion that really it's very unfair to reduce to 5 minutes. In fact, we could have just agreed that we debate under the standing orders until we finish and the House adjourns, because there's a lot to say. But anyway, on behalf of the people of Nairobi, I'd like to sincerely pass my condolences to the people of Tanzania, the people of East Africa, and indeed Africa, on the passing on of President John Magufuli, to his wife, Janet, and to his 3 children, and to all those who knew him as a friend. I first met him in 2015 when he came to Nairobi, to Kisumu actually, to Bondo, for the funeral of my late brother Fidel Odinga. And it was at that funeral that I realized what kind of a humble man he is. He drove himself all the way, alone, all the way he drove himself from Tanzania. People who cannot imagine that is the same year that he became nominated as a candidate. But he drove himself and he was very humble. He didn't even insist on any special recognition, but he was recognized because of the kind of person he was. Incidentally, that time I was campaigning for my friend January Makamba in the CCM primaries, and they went head to head until the last 5. And Magufuli became a surprise candidate. And the reason he became a surprise candidate, remember that time the hit between those Membe, those Luasa, is because he was accepted by everyone. And sometimes when you have heated politics, you remember in 2002, Kenya settled on a compromise candidate because they could not agree after, and they said Kibaki Tosha. And sometimes that is the kind of character that becomes president, even we might be shocked in 2022. Because no one expected Magufuli to be the person to be accepted. But once he was chosen, I spoke to my friend January and the rest, and said, if it is this one, then we're in safe hands. Madam Speaker, I was able also to interact again more recently when we went to Tanzania as patron of AFC Leopards. We were playing with Gor Mahia and the Tanzanian team, and through Prime Minister Raila Odinga, we had this interaction with him and his team. And I remember also visiting Mama Maria Nyerere, former Prime Minister and Chief Justice Warioba, at their place in Dar. And you could tell the kind of impact and the kind of, value, because we put a lot of emphasis here on hardware, but the kind of emphasis they put on the software and the values and the brotherhood in Tanzania was something really, really that we must emulate. So I pray that really his soul rests in peace, and that a legacy. Mama Suluhu, President Suluhu, we are proud that she's the president, but let her not try to be Magufuli, let her be herself. When you walk into a big man's shoes, don't try and fit in them, but create your own shoes. And we're confident. When it was announced, I remember I was talking to my sons, and they said, Tanzania has a girl as a president. And we laughed. I said, first, she's not a girl, she's a woman. But secondly, I'm proud that by the time my daughter, for instance, is that age, it will not be a shock to be a president in East Africa or a president in Kenya. Madam Speaker, as I finish, President Uhuru Kenyatta made us immensely proud by the respect he gave and by going there to stand with our brothers. It is just an imaginary line between us and Tanzania. We are brothers. The white man left us with an imaginary line between our countries. It's like when you tether a goat and then you take away the rope. The goat does not leave that radius. We must start thinking Pan-African. We must start thinking East African as one people, despite these imaginary lines. Madam Speaker, we've lost many friends. I just want to mention a few due to COVID. And I'd like to urge my friends in Tanzania, because I have many friends there, that they need to take it more seriously. They need to take COVID seriously. This week I've lost the Reverend Wambua of Deliverance Church, Donholm, a very good friend who we were talking to the other day. We're laying him to rest. We've lost Lona Irungu. She was a director at Gina Dean, media personality larger than life. She was, if you look at everyone who's talking about her, she was a friend to many people, but we lost her because of COVID, despite her fighting lupus for 20 years. Pole sana to Edwin Mashari and the family. We've lost Robin Chogu, who I used to call the king of radio, from the time he was in Capitol, then he went to Nation and Citizen, a young man. We've lost, Jubilee Executive Director Waweru, former PS and PC. Let us be more serious about these measures. And I urge our brothers in Tanzania, the denialism will not help us at this time. Let us do whatever we must do. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you, and I record our deep condolences to our brothers and sisters in Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping time. Thank Senator Langat Christopher. Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to condole this great man, the late John Joseph Pombe Magufuli. I want to say that he was a pragmatic leader who, through his disciplined strategies, he revolutionized the public service sector in Tanzania, whereby the culture of laziness and mediocrity in Tanzania became the thing of the past. I remember very well, I've been watching several clips, that this man never entertained foolishness. He could visit some places even very early in the morning and demand to see functionally even some machines in some places. I would wish that our leaders could even visit some hospitals in this country and see how idle people in various sectors are wasting government resources and doing nothing. So as a result of his pragmatic leadership, Madam Speaker, service delivery in Tanzania went so high, and production level also went so high. He can also be remembered for being very patriotic. He loved this country. The last words that he mentioned when he was sending his vice president by that time, Suluhu, to go and supervise projects and tell the people of Tanzania that he loved them so much. That one touched me, Madam Speaker. This man was so patriotic. Even in his suggestion for his burial place, he mentioned his homeland. He could not stand being buried in a place that has been said by Tanzania for presidents. But himself, he was so patriotic to the country of Tanzania and even to the village that he was born. He promoted infrastructural development in a very simple way, Madam Speaker. As Senator Wago has said, maybe the cost of the standard gauge railway in Tanzania as compared to the cost of the same in our country. This man loved this country. He was so disciplined, and he really promoted development of infrastructure in Tanzania. He fought also corruption to the point that there was a time several ghost workers, Madam Speaker, were laid off, and he went ahead to bring integrity in terms of certificates. Remember very well that most of the workers who had fake certificates were sent home because he wanted integrity in the world of academics. And I want to say that we learned also a lot from him. He was a great listener. He could travel on road. This is something that is becoming rare among our leaders. I think this one almost ended with the time of Moi. When we travel along the roads and to the villages, we are able to witness directly what's happening as far as development is concerned. This is what Magufuli was doing. And I remember very well, even in some places, he could give an opportunity to a young girl to talk about what was happening in her school. And on the spot, he donated 5 million Tanzanian money for infrastructure and gave something to that girl. This was a great man. The only thing that I had almost differed as an educationist with him one time is when he promoted a policy that once a girl becomes pregnant, there is no more going to school. I hope Madam Suluhu, being a lady, will loosen that policy to enable some girls to get a second chance and continue with their education. Sakaja has mentioned something so important, that it is high time that in our country and even in our neighborhood, we take COVID seriously. We have lost people, Madam Speaker, because of this COVID, and the worst of it is in our villages. Hospitals in our homes are not taking COVID seriously, where they don't even mention those people who have died because of COVID. So as a result, they are buried in the ordinary way, in the same way as anybody, hence increasing the infection rates. So I want to say that Tanzania, it's high time that they take COVID seriously, and as the neighbors also, we take it seriously. So I want to say Magufuli is a great leader, that leaders from East African community should learn from him. He also promoted seriously local contractors. I remember one time he had to stop some Chinese to enable the local contractors to build their economy. I really congratulate him for that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Mbogo Chochilo, I don't see you, so I give the chance to Senior Senator Ongeri, Samson Kegengo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we all must appreciate that the culture of Tanzania and their political lifestyle enabled the leadership to develop to a level where they were able to have a connection with the people and with the masses. And this served them extremely well because their cultural ethos, their social ethos, their economics, and their politics were able to yell and gel together to be able to produce the leadership that they needed at every stage of their life. And I think one thing which is predominant that we see in President Magufuli was the ability to be able to stamp out the corruption which was rampant, which tended to deviate their development path from a predictable path to a much more clearer path, where today they can be able to proudly say they have moved from the least developed country to low-income developed countries with almost following in the footsteps of Kenya. And thirdly, Madam Speaker, one thing that has struck me with immense humility, particularly when he went to church and collecting the offering. That's the type of humility which is very clearly quoted in the Bible, and I believe also in the Quran, that when you humble yourself before God, greater things happen in your life. We regret that we have lost him at this very potential, critical moment. He was a team player, both at the Tanzanian level as a head of state in Tanzania, within the East African community, and also in the international arena. He's one person who exhibited what leadership must be all about. And let's not blame each other here. Each country has its own developmental milestones. There may be pitfalls here and there, but I believe we can overcome by looking at what the experiences of other countries are showing us, and particularly the way we treat one another in our leadership codes. It's very important that we become true friends. And the friendship is something that you cannot acquire, it's developed. You develop friendship, and once you develop it, eventually you acquire it, it becomes part of you. And I think the greatest legacy that President Magufuli has left for Tanzanian people and for us within the East African community is that he developed a culture and a legacy that showed that he cared for the common man and he cared for the simple-minded people, and he was able to mingle with them and was able to work with them. He was able to correct the errors that were obvious and were intended to deviate the developmental goals of the Tanzanians to a much more predictable path. And I think we're beginning to see the results, and we want to take this earliest opportunity to congratulate Madam Suluhu for taking over the reins of Tanzania. I believe, looking at her and listening to her speech, she's equal to the task, and she can be able to perform very good. She can be a very good leader for the Tanzanian people, and she can also fit in within the East African community. We want to cherish the friendship between late President Magufuli with the Right Honorable Prime Minister. We also want to cherish the friendship between the late President and our President Uhuru Kenyatta. And that was typified when he paid a state visit here. You could see the brotherliness, the brotherly spirit that permeated through their intercourse during the period that they were debating and talking about areas of interest and a common interest and how they've been relating together. And I think this is a big example for all of us who are in leadership positions. And therefore, on behalf of KBC County, who are almost our immediate neighbor to northern Tanzania, we will miss Magufuli Pombe, we'll miss his style of leadership, but let's encourage the Tanzanians to be part of the East African community and play the teamwork that all of us so much desire to lift up this region to another level. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Ndwiga Njeru is not here. In place of Ndwiga, I want to call on Senator Nyamunga Ross.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to eulogize the fallen President of the Republic of Tanzania, the late John Magufuli. Madam Speaker, in 2015, I had an opportunity to be an observer in Tanzania during the elections, and that was the time he was running for presidency for the first time. And we spent several days, more than 10 days, and as I watched the way the late president was carrying out his campaigns, it was full of a lot of energy, a lot of vigor, and the words that he promised his people, as I sat back, I wondered, is this man really going to live to the words that he's giving to the people of Tanzania? Because I thought that what he was speaking about was not possible to be achieved. But true to his words, when he took over as the president of Tanzania, the first thing he did was to fight the ills that were plaguing the country of the United Country of Tanzania, Part of it, some of it being the corruption. Apart from corruption is the prudent use of the resources of the people of Tanzania. He put this to, he did it to the letter. And that really pleased me, Madam Speaker, because sometimes when we go for campaigns and we make some promises, in your hearts you may be knowing that you cannot achieve even a half of what you're speaking about. But with the president, the late President Magufuli, he simply lived to his words. And he really endeared himself to the people of Tanzania and made presidency very simple to the extent that he would make phone calls. And we were told that, oh, our president can just make a phone call and ask you how you are doing in the village where you are. And he would visit each and every place, trying to endear himself to the people to understand the problems that his people were going through. He didn't sit pretty to just be briefed by his people, oh, this is doing very right, we are doing this road is being done, this dam is being done, and yet on the ground, there could have been nothing. So I want to eulogize this president to say that it's a big example that most of us can emulate at any level of leadership, even as a senator, as an MCA, as a national member of parliament. We can emulate the late President John Pombe Magufuli. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity also to condole the family and to also congratulate the new president. We know that it may not be easy. The shoes are big, as already mentioned by some of our colleagues. But the most important thing is that she should just be herself, and she will be able to achieve more than anybody else would expect. So I want to join my colleagues, and on behalf of the people of Kisumu County, I stand here to give my condolence to the people of Tanzania and to the president, the family. And we believe that the work that had been started by the late president will be continued by the current president who has just taken over. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mwaura Isaac.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kujiunga na maseneta wenzangu kwa kupatiana rambirambi zangu na heko kwa Mheshimiwa John Pombe Magufuli ambaye niliwahi kukutana naye mara mbili hapa Kenya katika pika hizi zetu za kisiasa na katika chama cha ODM wakati nilikuwa mwanachama. Na pia niseme kwamba ni rais ambaye aliwahi kutungiwa jina zuri sana la Magufulify, la kumaanisha kwamba ni ule utendakazi, hapa kazi tu. Ni mheshimiwa rais ambaye alishindana kabisa na rafiki yangu mwingine anaitwa January Makama, na akaweza kuwa piku hata Edward Lowassa kuwa kiongozi wa Chama cha Mapinduzi. Lakini pia hakuwa tu rais peke yake, alikuwa ni mtu ambaye ni Mwafrika ambaye alihakikisha kwamba amepigana na ufisadi na rushwa, na fauka ya hayo akahakikisha kwamba hata ile reli ya SGR ya kule haikutumia fedha nyingi sana kama hii ya Kenya. Na pia aliwahi kuhakikisha kwamba barabara zimejengwa kwa bei nafuu, hivi kwamba alikuwa anawaambia wanakandarasi waweze kuzirudia zile barabara ambazo ni mbovu. Mimi mwenyewe nimeshabikia hilo katika Jamhuri ya Tanzania. Kwa hiyo ni mtu ambaye tunamsifu. Aliwahi kuhakikisha kwamba zile kodi ambazo zilikuwa zinachukuliwa na taasisi ya kodi ya Tanzania, Tanzania Revenue Authority, zimeweza kuongezeka kwa mara 3 tangu alipochukua usukani. Kwa hiyo ni mtu ambaye ni wakutajika sana. Pia alihakikisha kwamba hakuna ukora na wizi wa rasilimali ya madini tofauti, na hilo ni jambo pia ni zuri zaidi, kwa sababu amehakikisha kwamba Mwafrika hajaweza kunyanyaswa kutokana na wizi ambao unatumika na makampuni ya kigeni, hivi kwamba tunaweza kupatia wenzetu malighafi na mwisho tunapata bidhaa ambazo zimeweza kutengenezwa na ni mali yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kusema kwamba pia nafikiri ni vizuri kumsifu Suluhu Salma kwa sababu yeye ni mwanamke wa kwanza kuna mambo mengi ambayo yanahitajika yake, lakini pia Mheshimiwa Magufuli hakuwa na sifa nzuri katika haki za binadamu. Rafiki yangu Tundu Lissu sasa hivi yuko kule Ubelgiji kwa sababu ya kupigwa risasi 16. Mungu amsaidie. Wiki hii anatibiwa mkono wake kutokana na hilo. Tanzania chini ya Magufuli haikuwa inawajibika katika haki za binadamu. Watu waligandamizwa, wengine wakapotea, na upinzani ukanyanyaswa sana katika uchaguzi uliopita, hivi kwamba chama cha Chadema kilipata tu wabunge 2 peke yake, na wale ambao ni wakuteuliwa kina mama viti 113 wakapatiwa kwa nguvu viti 19. Na nafikiri hili ni swala kubwa sana. Nilisikia Senator Orengo akisema Xi Jinping, lakini Deng Xiaoping. Unawezaje kutawala nchi bila ubepari? Unawezaje kuhakikisha kwamba unaweza kuleta maendeleo pasipo na kugandamiza haki za kibinadamu? Je, ni rahisi kuwa na dhana mbadala ambazo zitakuwezesha kuwa na maoni tofauti ya utendakazi na sera ya kiserikali? Nafikiri hilo ni jambo ambalo wale ambao ni wanafalsafa, ambao ni wasomi wa siasa wataweza kuangazia wakati tunapotathmini maisha ya mwenda zake marehemu hayati John Pombe Magufuli. Lakini kwa ujumla nafikiri tunamsifia kwa sababu alikuwa amejitolea, hususan kama kiongozi ambaye aliamini wa Afrika, hivi kwamba hata alikuwa amesema tutumie tiba za kiasili kutoka kule Madagascar, wa Tanzania watumie vile, hata isipokuwa rafiki yangu Augustine Mahiga aliyekuwa waziri mkuu pia aliwahi kufa kwa sababu ya kifo cha COVID. Kwa hiyo ni mtu ambaye nafikiri ni mtanashati, alikuwa anapenda sana, alikuwa na umahiri na ushupavu wa kuhakikisha kwamba Uafrika umeweza kuidhinika. Alikuwa amekataa kupata hii chanjo rasmi kwa sababu alikuwa anasema pengine kuna mambo ambayo yasiyoeleweka mle, lakini kwa ujumla kama rais alikuwa ni mtu ambaye amejitolea, na tunamsifu sio eti tu kwa sababu tunakuwa na tathmini moja tu yake. Tuangalie mazuri yake na pia yale ambayo pengine hakufanya vizuri, kwa sababu pia yeye ni binadamu na tunajua kwamba hakuna binadamu ambaye hana kasoro. Kwa hivyo kwa haya mengi na machache, Mungu ailaze mahali pema peponi, na tutumie pia muda huu kusema kwamba dini itumiwe kwa haki, sio kugandamiza watu. Isitumiwe tu kwa kigezo tu ili uweze kushinda uchaguzi. Ni vizuri kutumia dini kuhakikisha kwamba umewajumuisha watu pamoja. Kwa hivyo naweza kuunga mkono na kuungana na wenzangu kutoa hizi rambirambi.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wambua Enokio.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice on my own behalf, on behalf of my family, on behalf of the great people of Kitui County, in consoling with the family and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania following the passing on of their president. Madam Speaker, judging by the outpouring of grief and love on the streets, on highways, on stadiums, in Dar es Salaam, in Dodoma, in Zanzibar, in Mwanza, as thousands of people mourn their departed president, there is evidence that Tanzania is utterly in pain, that they feel the pain of the loss of a president they deeply loved. Madam Speaker, I want to join those people of Tanzania in sharing in the pain of the loss of a president who distinguished himself as a no-nonsense person. The Speaker, it shall be remembered that many times President John Pombe Joseph Magufuli went to construction sites himself, not sending his ministers or his deputies. He went to construction sites himself to appraise himself with progress of works. And in cases where he found the work being done, he firmly and strongly pronounced himself on those issues and demanded value for money. And so, Madam Speaker, as we mourn this departed hero, there are also lessons that we need to learn from President Pombe Magufuli, a man who, to a very great extent, walked the talk. He was selfless. In most cases, Madam Speaker, when people are elected to big office with the privileges that come with those elections, it is very common for people to abuse those privileges. Here is a president whose election to the big office of president made him feel smaller than he was, and made him want to serve with dignity and decorum, to an extent that he sought and actually actualized a reduction of his own salary. Madam Speaker, I've just been reminded by my senior, Senator Amos Wako, senior counsel, that actually during the nominations for the ticket for CCM in the elections, the person that was the favorite for the party was actually Edward Lowassa. But before he could be given the ticket, there were questions about integrity and questions about fidelity to the rule of law and the management of public resources. And questions were asked around who among the aspirants could be entrusted with taking good care of the resources of the people of Tanzania. And that is when Magufuli was given the CCM ticket. Madam Speaker, in the fight against corruption, President Magufuli did not spare anyone. And as I said, we may need to learn some important lessons. I have heard at home, our own president has gone public and said that there are corrupt people in his own office. Madam Speaker, maybe this is a call to action to our president, that he would go beyond just mentioning that people are corrupt in his office, to crack the whip and restore dignity in public service. Madam Speaker, as I move towards concluding, now that Kenya has taken the leadership of the East African community, our president is the chair, and the Secretary General of EAC is our own Dr. Peter Mathuki. Maybe we should fast track a rebirth of the community.
Senator Inima Gertrude Musurube. Please try to condense your points. So that,
thank you.
We give all the members who would like to say something an opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to condole with the people of Tanzania on my own behalf, on behalf of persons with disabilities, and on behalf of the Inima's family. I condole with the people of Tanzania. I say Inima's family because I have a sister, Esther Inima Nyaki, who is living in Tanzania. And I want to say, Speaker, I remember that Tanzania was actually the beginning of the Inima's family, because my mother and my father met there when the borders were open. So I have really, really warm feelings for the people of Tanzania. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that from the eulogies of the late Joseph Magufuli, we see that he was efficient, and apart from being efficient, he was incorruptible, an incorruptible president. And even before he became president, he was actually named bulldozer. simply because of the stand he had taken in ensuring development was there in his country, in ensuring that he was actually driving the agenda of ensuring that his people were doing well. And he was even hailed for his stand on anti-corruption because he was really keen that people were not corrupt. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that even from his humility, you could see that he was a very humble being. He came from a humble background, and this he carried even in his leadership. Because you can imagine a president taking the offertory basket and leading by ensuring that he's planting a seed in the house of the Lord, and he did it himself. At one point, Honorable Speaker, he even decided there were no national celebrations. The Independence Day in 54 years, he decided that instead of celebrating the Independence Day, people will now do cleanup. And he did this by example because he went to State House and he was speaking rubbish. This is an act of humility, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to also commend what President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta did. He ensured that as chairman of EAC, he went there himself. And he also ensured that, and even in his talk, he said, come what may, I will go to pay my last respects. And that is what friendship is all about, Honorable Speaker. Because when you are dead, it does not mean that people will stop respecting you. That last respect is very important. And I want to encourage the President to continue with this strong friendship and ensure that even President Suluhu, who is now on the throne, you know, there is an amiable relationship between Kenya and Tanzania so that the borders are open. When the borders were open, Honorable Speaker, in those days, it was very easy for our parents, grandparents to traverse the whole of East Africa. And in the process, there was this, brotherhood and sisterhood, and East Africa was actually one. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that one thing also President Magufuli, late President Magufuli will be remembered for, is because of being conservative when it came to money. He was not a spendthrift. At one point, he even announced that national television will not air parliamentary proceedings, although, of course, people talked about it and all that. But that stand was, in the verge of, in the process of trying to save money. So he was very keen about how money was being spent, Honorable Speaker. And I also want to thank the President, the late President, for his stand on women. He just decided to pick on Suluhu to be the vice president, and he was not threatened at all. He did not feel anything, in appointing the, Suluhu to be the vice president. So this is something that even our leaders should emulate, that even when you are president, there's nothing wrong in a woman being a vice president, because we are talking about issues of gender parity. And gender parity can be achieved when we join hands together and ensure that we are moving forward for the purpose of prosperity of our nation. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to condole with the people of Tanzania. I want to condole with my sister Esther in Tanzania. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Senator Masitsa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join my fellow colleagues in putting my condolence message to the demise of His Excellency, the late Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, the President of the Republic of Tanzania. Madam Speaker, as I join the fellow honorable members in solidarity with Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the current President of the Republic of Tanzania, and the people of Tanzania in this difficult time, we condone together with them because they are neighboring one and they are people we share a lot of commonness when it comes to development as a third world country. Madam Speaker, I remember the president or the former president as a champion of the cause of African progress. Magufuli, who has for his genuine and tough stance against corruption and deep commitment to the public service, it can't go without noticing that Magufuli indeed was a president to change or for change. Madam Speaker, he was a leader, His Excellency the late, placed with issues of an average Tanzanian. And at the center of the government policy, above all the other things, you saw him participate as a general or a common Christian. He didn't take his position as a president to take it even to church. He contributed tirelessly to what he knew, that he was a human being much lesser than just any other thing. Madam Speaker, the leader, as we know, has left a cap in the Tanzanian complex as a republic. His legacy as a president will be missed by many. Not only I, but many. And I want to say pole to his wife, Madam Janet, or the first lady, the former first lady, Madam Janet, for losing his beloved husband. It is hard. It is even more hard because losing a husband who is of such a value to a family, just more than any other, it is hurting. I therefore send my deepest sympathy to go to her and the family, the entire family, and may the legacy of the late President John Pombe Magufuli live on, and may his soul rest in peace. I wish to congratulate again, once more, Samia Suluhu for becoming the first female president of the Republic of Tanzania, being the female president that we respect. This one will go without a notice that she inspires most of us who are women in the Republic and who are women in Africa. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support and I condone with Tanzania. Thank you.
Senator